If he can do it, so can I. It's just a matter of how. G and I went and saw a brilliant movie the other day, for those who may have already seen it. Mandela, The Long Walk to Freedom, about the iconic leader, Nelson Mandela. Who's seen that movie? Everyone put your hand up. Everyone put your hand up? Everyone put your hand up. Who's going to see that movie? Good. A champion is not defined by what they do. It's defined by what they do and shit's going against them, right? A lot of stuff happened to Dean, and some of those things were in his control and a lot of things were not in his control. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And that is the essence of a champion, the essence of what your future is going to be installed for you. Mandela is known for his long life fight to lead South Africa out of apartheid, white suppression, against a government which gave him and his people no rights, no civil rights. And he fought for that. And for that he didn't have control over that. He was born in South Africa, and before you know, he's in this situation. And in life you have many times two options. You can take the easy option, or you can take the right option. The easy option might be to conform, to accept, might be to sit. But then there's the right option, it's going to be more of a hassle. And I guess when you look at that movie, when you do see it, there's a man who stuck to his values, no matter what. The death penalty was on the table, and he was happy to accept it. He'd rather die than give up his right as a human being. Fortunately, he didn't die, but they put him in jail for 27 years. In that journey, he had opportunities to be released, and he refused it because to be released on the wrong conditions would make the wrong man of him. So I got Dean to speak for many reasons. He's achieved wonderful things, but he's also come from a complex place. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story to share. You've got a story. You've all had challenges. I'm sure your challenges are just as dramatic or just as challenging. Everyone has a story, but it's what you do about it that counts. You have a pen, you've got a paper, you can write your next chapter. Sometimes life writes chapters for you, but you can always write the next chapter. You are a designer of your own life, the future. You can use the past to be your anchor, or you can use your past to be your motivator. You can use the past to fall, or you can use the past to rise. That's up to you. So it's good to be inspired by people like Dean and Nelson Mandela, and there's plenty of people who've done that. That's why it's great to read about great people who've done great things, because they come from not easy places. And a lot of the time they come from tough places, and that's what makes them and builds their character to be able to take on the next challenge and not give up. So tonight I'm going to share a little bit of personal stuff with you, not to impress you, but to maybe impress upon you that you can do it if you decide to do it. I have an interesting journey, been in this profession for a wonderful 32 years. I'm fortunate enough to be getting older. Some people don't like that. I love that. I wouldn't be 20 for quids. I love turning 50. Almost as much as I'll probably love turning 60. Because what comes with that, if you do live the life according to you, writing your own chapters, then you end up creating magical memories. Magical stories that maybe one day it's worth writing a book about. If they write a book about your life, what type of book would it be? Would it be a thick book? You haven't read Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. Right? It's a thick book. It's a big book because he's lived a big life. The book on Arnold Schwarzenegger, Total Recall, it's a big book because he's lived a big life full of big challenges, big hurdles, big decisions, big actions, big results. Anyone worth writing an autobiography will have a big book. So my challenge to you is to live a life that someone wants to write a big book about, and maybe even may turn it into a movie for the right reason. You know, The Wolf of Wall Street, that's the wrong reason. You know? It's a big book full of a man who maybe didn't have values, motivated by greed, by taking rather than giving. Nelson Mandela lived a life giving, committed his life to fighting civil rights around the world to the day he died. Whether you express that through your purpose of a vision, humanity, of your business, your children, doesn't matter. So what type of book? At the moment, how many chapters would be worthy of writing? And would you be proud of the chapters, right? Yeah. What type of chapters will they consist of? Will people be motivated? Will it be an example to other people? Or will it be a warning? Yeah. Geez, I'm not going to do that. Versus, hey, look at that. I was born in New Guinea. I was very fortunate I was born in New Guinea. New Guinea at that time was, even today, is pretty much a third world country. But as a kid, you don't know any different, right? You just, where you are. Never saw TV. Grew up in the bush. So as a young kid, all you do is run around the bush. Half naked, yay! Life was great. And learned lots of lessons. I was fortunate that fortunate, maybe unfortunate, I had a father who was a authoritarian, so do as I say, or I'm going to pull the belt out and strap you. Yeah, but one thing I admired about him, when every time he took the belt off, there was a reason. He didn't just strap me because he was frustrated, it's because I broke the rules. Taught me a lot, right? Okay. Came down to Australia. I was only young and came down to the big country, right? Australia, wow, you know. TV, what's that? I used to go to the ward cinema in New Guinea, watch the big screen, and now there's little TVs, and they're black and white with the little thing. I thought, that's just amazing. So I was intrigued by this thing called a TV. Okay. Got over that fairly quickly because I was used to running around the neighbourhood and getting into trouble. I remember my first day at school. I was the new kid, went into school probably 3/4 through the year. And the whole school, the uniform was green. My mum bought me a blue shirt. Talking about creating a target. Who's the new kid? The one in blue, right? Right? I come down, I'm sitting there, and Australia's more advanced in education than New Guinea, right? So I came across, as a rule, the Dumbo in the class. Do a spellathon, I get 5 out of 100. There you go. 2 of them was my name. Could have been 3 if I remember. Little points, and I'm going to share points in my life which were turning points, as Dean shared with you points in his life that were turning points. Some of them are pleasant, some of them maybe not so pleasant. Nowhere near as challenging as Dean's challenges after hearing that. Okay. Minor things compared to that, right? Sometimes you think you're majors and you meet someone where says you're a major, you go, geez, what is this? Your biggest challenge might be, someone doesn't like you on Facebook and someone's got their father strangling their mother. Puts things into perspective, right? Little lunch at school, right? I come out of the class, everyone identifies I'm the stupid kid from New Guinea. That's okay, I'm young. I go down to, I always remember, I was at the water fountain having a drink. This guy standing beside me is Tom. He's obviously the the grade bully. Didn't know that. Have a drink. I turn to him, he looks at me. You know how kids, they blow the little water through their teeth, like this? And he just, kind of like that, right? He just sprays it on me. And I think, this is odd. Well, no one does that to you in New Guinea. Yeah, we're all friends up there. Yeah. My best friends with the natives. We say, we'll go around playing in the bush. It was great. He's spraying water, right? So I get there, fill up my mouth, the whole mouth, right? I thought it was a game. It's a water fountain game, that's right. So I just the whole water. I didn't realise he was doing it to annoy me. I thought he was just wanted to play with me. Yeah. So he gets there, and he's obviously upset by that. So he gets his finger and he pokes me right in the sternum. Poke. And I go, oh, it's a game. So I poke him, and then he punches me right in the chest. This is good. So I punch him. Your turn. And it sort of escalated to just standing there, not putting your guard up, and just loading up, and just bang in the... And then I go... Now, it hurt like hell. But I'd never let him know that. Right, he would hit, and I go, is that it? Okay, my turn. And this sort of went back and forth, and obviously all the other kids are watching this going on, and eventually I just hit him and he just walked away. Yeah. And I thought that was odd. Huh? Big lunch, a guy called Brett Powell, he comes searching for me. He's the toughie in the grade. Right? He comes up there, says, he comes and starts pushing me. Before you know, we're on the ground belting into each other. First day of school, good impression, right? Right? Has a tussle, I'm on top of him, punching him. He rolls me over, he punches me, it's this sort of tick for tat. This is really odd because I don't really get in fights in New Guinea, but down here, these Australians, they're a weird bunch. So we get pulled apart, sent to the principal's office, get a few cuts, like that, the strap, go back. Then comes big lunch. Then Bradley comes looking after me. I'm a target. Before I know, Bradley thinks he's a bit of a boxer. He jazzed me in the head a few times, so I just tackle him. And that was the journey of my school years. Yeah? But over time, they stopped picking on me because they knew that I would always fight back. But I was always in trouble for, I don't know what reason. I used to live in Aspley in Brisbane, and there's a drive-in, don't know if it's still there, the Aspley drive-in. So we're driving by there, and I see on the big screen, so I'm being teased a lot. At the same time, the adaptation to Australia was really challenging mentally for me. So overnight when I came here, I developed this stutter. So when you asked me for, I go, that's no exaggeration. I couldn't put two words together. So obviously now I'm just the stuttering kid from New Guinea who everyone teases. So you tease me, you come up to me, and then I hit you in the head. Because that seemed to make them stop. I used to try to talk back to them, and then I got excited. And I go, and they go. And as I got really upset, I go, so when you can't communicate, you sort of get frustrated, so you express yourself through any form of expression of emotion, and because you can't express it verbally, you just express it by hitting. Right? And it's not correct, but it's not right. And so I'm going by the Aspley drive-in on my bike, and I see up there, it was a movie, an all-night movie series. There was a Bruce Lee all-night movie series. I thought, Bruce Lee, who's that? I heard of him, the Kung Fu King. And there's all these movies about him. I've never seen him in action before, but I heard about him. I heard about Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee. And I said, so I talked my mum into taking me to the Bruce Lee, and there's a Bruce Lee marathon, 4 movies. So she gets there, and now she has no interest in martial arts, but she's a great mum. So I'm sitting there, I'm watching Bruce Lee beat the absolute shit out of everyone. You know, what the? People just, I'm going, Mike. I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to know that shit. I need to know that shit. You wait till you wait. You know, yeah, boof, take that, you know. Oh, I just need a cry. And my whole purpose was to learn how to fight, to beat the shit out of everyone. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it right, you know. And I had a sound effect. What are those stuff? I'm right. So I ventured down, I find this little judo club, and I didn't know the difference. So I wanted to learn how to kick. And I go to judo, and so this is really good, and I fell in love with it. And I was always waiting for the lesson where they're going to teach you how to kick. It never came. Well, I was at school still being picked on, and then my parents were a little bit concerned about my development. So, so they said this kid needs help. And I couldn't, you know, I'd be at home, and Mum would say, slow down. So she sent me to therapy, went to therapy, and it was really embarrassing because I always remember it was on a Tuesday afternoon, I'd be in class, and then I had to get up at around about 2 p.m. with all the classes in, and I would walk out, and I had to go to another school. I'd get picked up and delivered to, I go to Aspley East School. I also went to Aspley State School, and all the kids would go, where's he going? And when they found out where I was going to get speech therapy and speech treatment and stuff like that, and I'd get up, and they would say, oh, he's off to the spastic classes. Is he a spastic? Yeah, and I think, yeah, lunchtime. So I go through all these lessons and all these, psychological things of, colouring in horses and putting them in pasting and all this shit. None of it worked, right? So I get all this therapy and it's not working. But what I found is, I found something where I could connect to, and which gave me discipline and helped me find myself, and that was in martial arts. So I started doing judo, and I always remember one of these, I went into a tournament. I didn't know how good I was. I was practicing and stuff like that, and I had a female instructor, Janelle Stackpole, who I fell in love with. Had big boobies, so I really liked that. Let's rest with some judo. But she was a great fighter as well. And I always remember one tournament I went in. It was a club tournament, and everyone came up. I'd never really done free fighting. It was my first time of free fighting. And I just cleaned everyone up. But it wasn't messy, it was just clean fighting, because I just followed the rules, bang, bang, bang. And they would flip, everyone. And at the end, I'd won the club championship. And I thought, wow, that was kind of cool. And what I did is I just stuck to a system. I just taught a system, a discipline, follow the rules, apply that, practice it, and then you're going to get the outcome. And that outcome, I really it served me. I went, wow, that was really pleasing. It was satisfying. So then I started going in tournaments, and basically it got to the stage where I went to state, went to national, won the national titles. And and then I found that I realised soon enough there was no kicking in judo. But it was a great martial art. I think it's one of the best martial arts for any kid to start in, because it teaches balance and discipline, and because in self-defence most fights end up in a wrestle anyway. So that's where judo or jiu-jitsu or wrestling will come into place. Then I discovered later on a taekwondo. I remember going by, we were at the Chermside on Hamilton Avenue, and on the corner there's a little church hall there. It's not there anymore. And as I was driving by and down in the car, I see this lady with blonde hair, and I see her put her foot up and do a kick. I went, that's where I'm going. And she kicks. Right? She kicks. Because I remember there's a little guy called Bruce Garden, right? Because I was still getting in playground fights. And Bruce Garden was the second top toughie in the school. Now, this is about 3 grades above me, and they heard that I could handle myself. So now I became a target for the guys the last grade, right? And there's a guy called Hipwell and Scarden, and they were the real bullies. And Scarden comes up and he starts picking on me and says, I need to fight you. I said, oh, okay. He says, I'll see you at the back of the playground at lunchtime. I said, oh, okay, fair enough. Right, so I go down there. Now he was a pretty good hand. He did a bit of boxing and that. So I go down to the far end of the town. There's 2 playgrounds. You go down, and there's a fight on because the whole of the kids just pour down. They all run, fight. And I just sort of walked down there, and he was there, and they created this big circle. And I walked up, and I walked in there because I could not show up, right? Could not. So Sergeant's there, and he says, well, let's get this underway. I said, what's that? So he comes up and he just belts me in the head. And I went, oh, that's interesting. Now, one thing I learned, that when you get punched in the head, it doesn't really hurt. It doesn't seem to hurt that much. In the guts really hurts, right? So I said, okay. So I'm dancing around, and he just starts, belting me. He was good with his hand. Bang. He's obviously, I'm going, bang, oh, this is not good. Bang, this is not good. Bang, this is not good. And I said, stuff this. And I just ran at him. And I grabbed him. When the judo fighter grabs you, that's the end of the game. You better knock him out, because if they touch you, you're gone. So then I just systematically picked him up, threw him over my shoulder, put him on the ground, helped him back up again, picked him up, throw him on the ground. Helped him up, and at the end it became a bit of a joke, because every time I pick him up, Bruce would start saying, oh, here we go again. So it almost came this fun thing, And I've actually was trying to put him down gently, because I didn't want to hurt him. I could have jumped down and arm-barred him or choked him, but I thought, this is fun. Just lifting up, let's have a bit of fun. And then at the end, I said, you give up? He said, no, here we go again. Right? You give up? And eventually he said, I give up. I said, oh, great. And I helped him up, gave him a hug, and said, let's get on with it. But over time, as I got better at fighting, I learned I didn't have to hurt people. And I got better at fighting, I learned I didn't have to fight. But the other thing that really made a significant change is I got better at that. I got better at speaking. It taught me patience. It taught me discipline. It taught me how to control my frustration. And it was really interesting that I started to get a bit of a grip of my speech challenge. And then obviously when I started learning how to fight, kids didn't want to pick me anymore, because they knew I was Australian Judo champion, and before you know it, I was Australian Taekwondo champion, because I took up the Taekwondo. And I went to that like, duck to water. And that was fantastic. So I was doing the 2, and I did that right up into in my teens and early 20s. But it was a very interesting journey, where that's how my connection with fitness and health and discipline and all those, and the spirit of martial arts. I understand not all martial arts live the spirit of martial arts, but there is a spirit there, and you choose whether there's out there. Sometimes there are some bad people who go into a good thing. It doesn't mean it's not a good thing. It's just that's the way it is. So I went through school, went to high school, and it was quite amazing, because when I actually went to high school, I never got into one fight. I got picked, but I just eyeball people, because they sort of hash you. You sort of look at them, and you can be able to sort of get that look. I developed that sort of look that, okay, and then they go, okay. It's quite amazing how you can actually, Sharon was over in Auckland the other week. Now if you don't know Sharon, she's 5 times world boxing champion, right? She punches like a mule's kick. But she was all with all the boys over there, he's the big boys. We've got a big group of our Māori boys based over there. And, she's in there, and she's this, and there's big boys. And then they put the gloves up, and you can see when she puts the gloves up, this face appears. That little face appears? And people go, oh, shit. You can sort of sense, the eyes. And you can sense, and I guess that's, in my high school years, that's how I basically got out of any challenges, and it wasn't long before people realised that I knew how to handle myself, and I was only in the bottom of the grade, and the whole school was scared of me. Now, they exaggerate it, right, because I wasn't that good, but I wasn't going to stop them believing that. Sometimes I would sort of add to that to create fear in their eyes, and they fear nothing really, but that was probably a good thing to be, so because I got a little bit sick of getting into street fights and school fights. At the end of that journey, it was really interesting, because as I got better at martial arts, there was a correlation between improvement in my speaking. And when I was first in school, I got held back in school because I was the dummy. Mrs. Smith was my first teacher, and she spoke to my mum and says, it's not good for him to go on because he's just so far, he has no idea what's going on. So I stayed back in school, and then I was, an age above the next. And when you're at that age, 1 year is a big year, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're 49 or 50, it doesn't really matter. But if you're, young years, that was a big thing. So I got kept back, but what I found is every year my grades went up a step. On my first I got straight D's, right? Straight. right? So that's consistency. I was really consistent. Then when I went up the grade, I went to straight C's with Mr. Turner. And then I went up to Mrs. Wright, and I was getting straight sixes. And then when I went up with Mr. Kent, because I still remember my school teachers' names, and that was Mr. Kent, and I was getting straight sevens. Then went to high school, and before you know it, the dummy turned into, the real smart one. And I wasn't really smart. I just sort of, knew how to get through and do the best I can. So I went through school, and at the end of school, I was always involved in sport, and I continued with martial arts, and I got my black belt, one of the youngest black belts in my art anyway, in the country, and it was a senior black belt. I didn't go for junior, went to the senior, so I fought with the adults. And I loved martial arts, and that particular time was a big part of my life. When I was leaving school, I didn't know what to do, and I had some great advice given to me by my Uncle Alan, and he said, Kerry, my mother wanted me to become a doctor, and my father wanted me to become a computer programmer. So with that, I didn't have any interest in either. And computers back then were the size of this room. And a doctor, well, they just hang out with sick people, and I didn't think I was smart enough anyway. But my Uncle Alan said, I always remember the night I was in my room. He was actually putting me to bed because I had a bit of a fight with my mum. And then he came up there and he taught me this lesson. He said, I'm going to give you some advice. Whatever you do, you never end a day on a fight. You never go to bed fighting with your mum or anyone that you love. So you always make sure you make up, and then you go to bed. And so I went down there and made up for mum and all that. So I don't know what we're fighting about, but something stupid. And then he put me to bed, and then he's having a bit of a chat. And then I was thinking about what I'm going to do after school. And he just have a bit of a chat because we were fairly close. He owned a farm at Stanthorpe. A farmer guy type thing, but guy I really sort of connected with because I wasn't really close to my old man. And he said, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I don't know. And he said, well, think about this. Do something that you love, and you never have to work another day in your life. And that sort of stuck in my head. So when I got towards the end of the school, I thought, well, what do I love to do? Not do what other people wanted me to do. Because I didn't see a lot of happy people out there doing their job, I thought, well, if I do something that I love, I may not get the money, but at least I'll have the love. So the only thing I was interested in was health and fitness. So I thought, I'd go into health and fitness. Now, the industry wasn't like it was now. They didn't have big health clubs, and there weren't health clubs, there were gyms, and mostly blokes went there. And there was all bodybuilding type. And towards the end of school, in the second half of my last year of school, I just got introduced to a guy called Jeff Olsen, who was a Canadian bodybuilder. I met him at a party, who was a cousin of one of my schoolmates, Sean Rain. And this guy was huge, and I thought, man, what's wrong with you? He said, what do you mean? He said, look at these lumps. Look at your arms as big as my leg. How do you do that? He said, well, I lift weights. And I said, well, really? Why? And he says, because I build up there. He says, why don't you come to the gym? So I was curious enough, so we go to the gym, and we started lifting a bit of weights, and I had this connection to how weight training made me feel. I started developing lumps. Well, that's nice. And they also helped me with my fighting and helped me with my sports because I actually got stronger. So I got a bit of addicted to it. So I'd go down to the gym after school every day at the end of my school, the last year of school. And Jeff Olsen went back to Canada, but I kept going to the gym. There's a gym called Bob's Gym. The Bob owned it. Bob was thinking, I'm opening up a gym, what do I call it? Bob, what do you think about that, Jim? He says, yeah, well, that's a good idea, because I called mine Jim's Gym. And there's a Jim's Gym on Stone's Corner in Brisbane, and Bob was down the coast. And it's a real hardcore bodybuilding gym. So I was there all the time. So Bob said to me one day as I was in there, he says, can you look after the gym for a while? He says, you can come in, look after the afternoon, that way I can go home and have my growth nap. So I thought, growth nap, what's that? When you rest and recover and grow. I said, okay, fair enough. So I started looking after the gym, and my way of payment was that I didn't have to pay the membership. So now I was the supervisor of a gym, and I thought this is really good, and so I'd be starting to help people lift weights and give them spotting and all sorts of things. So technically, I guess that was my first position as a gym instructor. So I left school, and I thought I'd study something because there weren't many jobs around because the industry hadn't developed like that. So I'll go to study it, and the only thing I could find was called a Bachelor of Human Movement Studies. So I entered there and spent probably 4 years learning a lot about nothing, and everything I did learn I forgot. because it was in the early stages of that type of degree. There weren't many, and it was really what they called a Mickey Mouse degree. You know, you get a degree, but you don't know what to do with it. Right? So he was a Mickey Mouse. You do medicine, you come out as a doctor. You do physio, you come as a physio. You do human administration, you come out as a real estate agent, maybe, because you can't get a job. Or used car salesman. So a lot of the people in my group sort of went on to becoming PE teachers, because that was the only thing they could do. They went and did a diploma of education and became a PE teacher. And I thought, okay, so I started going with the crowd, and actually I applied to a college called Macaulay College. I got accepted to do a diploma of education. And I just was never excited by it, you know, to go do education, working as a school teacher, because I saw my school teachers and they didn't look too happy. And I guess I was fortunate at the time where I was really good at martial arts. I opened up a martial arts school in Beenleigh, a Taekwondo school. I was only 17, 18, but I'd already won multiple judo and Taekwondo titles at that time. So I was really good at what I did, and I could teach. So I ran the school and I built that up, and that helped pay my way through university. I also got some part-time security work. I used to be a security guard down at the Nissan Distribution Centre where I protect the cars, and I was the personal bodyguard to racehorses. You know, so I'd hide in a stable with a shotgun in the corner, making sure no one meddles with the star horse coming in racing the next day. So that was pretty exciting. Particularly my boss would try to sneak up on me, catch me sleeping. You know, because all the other bodyguards, all the guards would fall asleep. You know, you're there like 3 a.m. in the morning, and there's this horse going, you know, you're there, righto. But I always knew that John Moon was his name, he was going to sneak up on me, so I'd be waiting for him, you know. I'd be in the shadows, and every time he'd appear, I would be in a different spot. And then I would always make sure when he was coming through, I'd jump from the beam, and I'd jump down with a gun, and with a big shotgun, and go, "Who goes there?" And he'd just shit himself like this. You know, you do silly things to entertain yourself. You know. It's really interesting, because at the moment I'm staying at the Quest Breakfast Creek Hotel, which is a new hotel, and the hotel across there, it brings back fond memories, because when I was 30 years ago, I used to work there initially as a cleaner. So get there at 4 o'clock in the morning, get the hoses, and they had big beer gardens there, and I cleaned out all the cigarettes, 4 a.m. in the morning. And then over time, I got a huge promotion to glassy, where I'd go pick up the glasses, you know. And then one night, there was a 007 call over there, and just 007, because in the public bars, it used to be a real rough pub back in those days, you know, the bikies with that gun, there's the 007 call, which means there's a big all-in brawl. And a big all-in brawl you know, you see those westerns where they're bottles and all that. That's what it was like. And the 007 is all staff in there because there's a bore and we need help. The head security guy is a guy called Dave, and I could handle myself, but no one really knew that. So I go running, fight. You know, people are in trouble, you know, because the people there are really good people, and sometimes you get a bikie gang in there and they start sort of make hassle. It's always tough when the US, always had a US Navy ship will come in, and all the sailors would come in. Before you know it, they're just sort of picking fights. So I remember running in, I ran in, and it was just, I'd never seen anything like it in my life. It was just, you know, you had about 50 people just fighting on bars, throwing glasses. It was just one of those big barroom brawls. It's like, oh my gosh, and I'm just going, where do I start? So I'm about to leap in, and as I'm about to leap in, this hand comes and he grabs me by the back of my shirt and he pulls me back, right? And I go like this. And there's Dave, who's the old wise, you know, he's a head security guard, only small guy, and he says, "Settle down there, young fella. Settle down. Just wait for they punch themselves out. Just enjoy the show." And these guys, they're doing these big fights, but they're not very fit. So yeah, and before you know it, they're exhausted throwing these punches, and then slowly as so we just sort of just sneak one and just throw them out. And gradually we just threw them out on the street, and then they get a bit of a second wind and they start fighting on the street. The police arrive, I always remember this, the police arrive, and there's this one cop carriage there, and there's 2 cops in there, and there's probably about 20 guys fighting, and they're actually fighting on the bonnet of the police car. They didn't care about the cops, and the cops weren't getting out. They're just sitting there going, I'm not getting out of there. But once we threw them out, they tend to, you know, damage themselves, and then they just wander off, and we try to protect the, you know. But with that, they saw that I was pretty eager and said, "So you like a bit of security?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "Why don't you join the team on security?" So I became part of the security team at the Brecky Creek Hotel. And then behind me where I'm staying at the Quest, there's the Albion Trots. And I thought, well, that's a fun memory, because I used to go and do the guard work for the horses there. And then I was there, then I got the job. There used to be a big nightclub there, so I ended up being security at the nightclub. So I had a martial arts school. I had these security at the Nissan Distribution Centre, security at the Brecky Creek, security at the Trots. Then I had a bit of work in the gym with a guy called John Ham, who had Spartan Gym. So I didn't really have any time for university anyway. And it was interesting with uni, I found it quite boring, so I never went. I used to show up for the exams and study for the exams from the textbook because the lectures bored me to death. And I guess that had an effect on when I got into education many years down the track. I didn't want to do what the universities did. I wanted to create, eventually that affected me in the negative. Do it the opposite the way they do it, because that was really boring. So over time, when I had the martial arts school, and then I got this opportunity, one of my students' parents came, this little flyer in the paper. And in the paper it says, we want a martial artist to perform in this show. It's called the Galaxy Show. It used to be at the casino. Started with Stars, the big entertainment room, and they had the stage. So I go down there. They needed a martial artist, so that'd be kind of cool. So I went down there and started to audition for this show, just for fun. I wasn't really serious about it. And I took down my nunchuckers, my butterfly swords, my broadswords, and all my weaponry, and I got up on stage and did this demonstration. And the guy called Jerry was, quite impressed by it. And he says, I want you to help me put the show together. And this is a multi-million-dollar production. You had, like 26 chorus line dancers and entertainers from Moscow and Argentina, the Argentinian gauchos, the Moscow dancers, the Russian dancers. It was quite this huge show. And I said, okay, that's fair enough. And we need you to train our acrobats how to fight with weapons. I said, okay, what for? Because they're going to fight you. I said, oh, that's kind of cool. So I was involved in finding a partner for me, a fight partner, and spent some time with these the two top acrobats, trained them in star fighting, trained them in acrobatics and fighting, started to put some routines together. Then I trained all the other acrobats in how to use and we put this big stage show together where Japan fought Kublai Khan, and those two countries used to fight. And it had dancing and fighting and stage and horses on stage and these big treadmills and the warriors. It's quite an amazing how they did it. But in that journey it was interesting because I guess that was a saviour that stopped me to go to education, I suppose. I thought this is kind of cool. So I got in the entertainment industry. So for about 2 years I was working at the casino, doing 8 shows a week around with these amazing dancers, amazing gauchos and entertainers and acrobats. And it was just so different world, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And in that process you sort of, you sort of get involved in that culture a bit. And over time you realise that's not the culture that's got to take you to the place you want to be. Because obviously these type of people, they party in both ends, there's lots of drugs and all sorts of stuff. So I played with all that and eventually got to the stage after about 6 months of really hard partying. I thought to myself, where's all this going? This is going in the wrong direction. You do a show till late at night, then you go to the bar, then you drink till like 2 a.m. in the morning, then you go to someone's place, then you do a whole series of drugs, and then you wake up the next day and you do it all over again. And that was the culture of the entertainment game. And I enjoyed it and I wanted to experience it, but I knew I was better than that. I was better. I experienced it, but I was better than that. So it wasn't long before I got a part-time job at the time at the gym at the casino called Lifestyle Health and Fitness. And they asked me to come on part-time, so I worked during the day and I did the shows at night. And that was fantastic. So I had this fantastic team in the gym that were really good at what they did. I was inexperienced, full of passion, and I just loved training. I loved training people. But there was an interesting stage towards the end of the contract with the show. Is a couple called Ron and Jolene Watson. They were Adagio dancers. So they do the music and she's this girl and he'll flip her up in the air and spin her in the air and do these amazing acrobatic dancing feats. And they had lots of connections in Vegas, and they saw, and Ron liked a bit of martial arts, and he says, I've got a proposal for you. So what's that? He says, how do you like to come to Vegas? And I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, I want to put a show together to be on the Vegas Strip. It's going to be a big show. There's going to be dancing and martial arts. I want you to come over there. We'll work together. We'll put this magnificent martial art dancing extravaganza on. And it was really tempting. I thought, wow, that's really cool. That sounds fantastic. But I guess at the end, I just thought, well, there's something that doesn't feel right. It's a great opportunity, but the end result is I obviously declined it, because if I didn't, I'd probably be over there now, right? Come to Vegas dancing. But I guess that was the first time I had a choice of, do that or do I stick to fitness? And even though there's lots of money to make in this and lots of fame and lots of all sorts of stuff, and I would have probably been really good at it, I suppose, But I just felt that doing fitness was probably felt right to me. And one of the things I was passionate about was strength training, and particularly strength training for athletes. So when I declined to go to Vegas, the show was winding up, and I thought, what am I going to do? I can't just stay a gym instructor. And my passion was strength training. So I had this brainstorm of idea that I would open up a sports and conditioning business where I'd train elite athletes specifically in strength training. Now that was an era where strength training for athletes didn't exist. Athletes didn't do strength training. They just didn't do fitness training. They were just athletes. So there's no real position or job for me. So because I didn't have a position or job to go to, I had to create one. So I thought I'll create my own business, therefore I'll go and train athletes. And I'll convince them that they need to do strength training. Because they're not doing it, but they have to do it. Well, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with these coaches? So I developed this company, came up with a name called Sports Elite. And I had these little handful of clients I was looking after. I was fortunate, my first client was a guy called Brett Martin, who's one of the best squash players in the world at the time. He just happened to be in my gym. It's funny, when you create what you want, you start to see what you need. I'm a strength trainer, I'm a sports elite, great. And that first day, there's a guy in the gym. I said, hey, Garn, what's your name? He said, my name's Brett. Oh, yeah, what are you training for? Well, I'm training for squash. I'm a professional squash player. I said, oh, okay, so tell me about it. I train in the world. I'm ranked about eight in the world at the time. And I said, so you want to get fitter and stronger for squat? He says, yeah. So look, I'll tell you what I can do. I can make you fitter and stronger, and specifically for squash. How does that sound? So that sounds good. It's great. How about I organise a program for you, specifically designed around your needs? Because you don't want to do a general program, because you're not a general type of guy. You are an elite athlete. So you need a elite athletes program. He went, yeah, you're right. I said, great. Well, how about we meet here tomorrow and we'll do a program for you. He says, okay, awesome, fantastic. And he says, and so tomorrow, got an honest time, I met with him, and I didn't have any program cards, right? I didn't have a logo. And I thought, I rang up a girl called Karen Smith, and I said, Karen, I need a logo. Can you put something together for me? So she designed this little logo for me. I got one of my gym cards, and I cut my logo over the top of it, and photocopied a program card. So that looks professional. She says, no, it doesn't really, it's a piece of paper. I put in a little plastic pocket thing, and now it looks professional. No, not really. You need to put it in a folder. So I bought a folder, and then I had a folder with my card, and we put it under the hand there. Now it looks professional. Okay. But I didn't have a uniform, right? So I found an old polo shirt, the best I could. And I rang up Karen Smith, and I said, look, I've got the logo, I want to get a uniform. She says, okay, well, give me the logo and I'll work on it for you. She says, great. The next day I met Brett in the gym. I said, okay, so I designed this program based on all the stuff I taught the guys today not to do. That's what I did, right? Because that's all I knew, right? So, but Brett was just wrapped up in my confidence. It wasn't about, he didn't know how if I knew, but he thought I was a specialist because I said I was a specialist. So I put him through this program, and he said, oh, that was fantastic. Oh, that was really good. I really like that. And he says, how much do I owe you? And I never thought about that. And I said, $50. He went, okay. So he gave me $50. I said, wow, that was easy. Right? And the last time I felt that, it really felt special, because it wasn't my employer giving me, it was my customer. And it reminded me of the first time I experienced that. The first time I experienced that is way back, and going back in time, I used to live in Aspley, and I was about 14 years of age, and I had this thought, I need to earn some money because I need money to do stuff, right? And I went up to Dad and I says, Dad, can I have some money? And he said, piss off. I said, okay. So he says, you want money? Go and earn it yourself. I went, okay, thanks. Right. And it's probably the best thing he could have done. Right? Because if I asked for money, he gave it to me, that would be the worst thing he could have done. So now it got me thinking, how do I get money? So I thought, okay, what can I do? So I looked around the neighbourhood and I said, I could mow lawns. Right? So I mow lawns. So I rang up a mate of mine, a guy called Peter Moore, who I grew up with in New Guinea. And he was 17, I was 14. I ring him up and says, hey, mate, you want to go into business? He says, yeah, sounds good. And he says, oh, what type of business? I said, lawn mowing. He says, great. So how are we going to do this? Well, you get the car, I'll get the mower, I'll get the customers. Stay tuned. So I rang up the paper and I spoke to the lady there and I said, can you put an ad in the paper for me? Lawnmower and gardening with the phone number. And that was basically about it. I don't know how much it cost, 50 cents back in those days. And so I sent you out an invoice. I said, fantastic, I'll get an invoice. I thought, what the hell is an invoice? I was expecting something, I didn't know what was going to come. That weekend the phone rang and my mum answered the phone and she said, I was there having breakfast and she goes, what? Lawn mowing? And I said, Mum, that's for me. She says, what's this? I said, I'm in business, give me the phone. And she says, what's going on? Don't you worry about it. I says, yes, and there was this lovely old lady who said, you mow lawns, how much does it cost to mow a lawn? I said, $5, which was a lot of money back then, $5. And I always remember she lived in Kalanga because that's where my grandma lived. And I said, great, so I'll be there, 11 o'clock, I forget exact the time. I hung up, I called Pete, said, Pete, we're in business. Come and pick me up, because I had Pete because he had the car, I didn't have a car, so I'm thinking global, not local. I need wheels, I can't just rely on my neighbour. So Pete comes to pick me up. In the meantime, I go around to the back of the house, there's the old shed there, I pour out the lawnmower. I always remember this, Dad was mowing, he was vacuuming the pool. I said, Dad, come here. So he comes over and says, what? I said, the lawnmower. He says, what about it? I said, how do you start it? And he said, why do you want to start it? Because I'm in business. I'm going in the lawn mowing business. He says, you never mowed the lawn in your life. I said, that can't be that hard, can it? And he says, how do you start it? He says, well, how about you start with mowing my lawn? He says, yeah, I'll do that, and then I'll invoice you. So he showed me how to start it up. One of the old, the ones you wind up, and then you... So it was really good incidental activity. Got all the tools, threw them in the back of the Kingswood, and off we went mowing the lawn. And I didn't realise that the blades, you could go up and down. I didn't know that. And they were down. So as I'm mowing this lady's lawn, dirt's coming out. Like this, this is not right. And she's a nice old lady. When I first arrived, she said, you're a bit young for this. You've been doing this for long? Oh, you would not believe how long I've been doing this for. And she said, oh, well, that's reassuring. He says, yes, fantastic. Oh. She says, Pete, you did the edging, I did the mowing. So I really cut it back. The lawn was really, really short. And she came out, and she was lovely. She brought me lemonade and a little ice and all that sort of stuff. And then she looks at the lawn and says, it's cut pretty low. Isn't that a bit low? Now, I didn't know what to say, but I always remember my father, just before the summer, he would cut the garden right back, because he was a bit of a green thumb, the old man. And I said, you had beautiful shrubs, and you just cut them right back. Why'd you do that? And he says, well, you've got to cut them back so they can sprout again for the summer, and they will regrowth, and it's really good for the garden. So when she said, how can we cut it right down? I said, well, because it's the beginning of summer, you've got to cut it right down so it'll sprout for the summer and regrowth. She said, that makes sense. I said, great. Poor, I had no idea what to say. So we were in business. In the first weekend, we did 4 lawns. We had $20 in the hand. And it was just so empowering, as a 14-year-old, that I didn't have to beg mum or dad for money. I can go into business. I can get rewarded for the value add that I gave. We celebrated that first weekend. We said, okay, I'm a man now. I'm a businessman. So he had to celebrate like a businessman. So we got in the Kingswood. We went to the drive-in, the Ashby drive-in thing. But Pete, bought a 6-pack. I couldn't because I looked too young. He bought a 6-pack of beers. We went back to the Ashby drive-in, and they had another movie series of R-rated movies. And that was kind of cool, R-rated movies. So I hopped in the boot because I'm underage. Can't go into an R-rated movie because it's really strict back then. Now on TV they're showing it all, but back then. And so I'm in the boot like this to get in. We get into the drive-in, sit there, have my beers, and there I am, 2 businessmen in our car, in our wheels, drinking beer, looking at Teddy. Well, she's got good set, ain't she? I thought, this is success. Isn't this good? Isn't this fantastic? So it was really empowering. The next time I felt that, obviously when I had my taekwondo school, and the next time was when I got that first $50 off Brett Martin. So when people like Dean say it's so rewarding, because it's rewarding because you reap your own rewards from your own labour, and there's no better feeling. There's no better feeling because destiny's in your own hands, and that's what business does. And I learnt that as a young age, and I got addicted to it. When I was working in the gym, it fit into my lifestyle, but I was never really happy because I don't like to be told what to do. I like to create what I want to do. So if there's anything, the thing with life, I guess, the lesson is you can make it what you want. You're an architect to the rest of your life. How most people, I find, live their life, unfortunately, is they leave school and they seek security. Right? They leave school and they seek security. It's interesting, a colleague of mine, a guy called Patch Evans, he owns over 200 health clubs in Canada. When I got to know him, he owned about 100 health clubs in America. He attended one of my seminars, and it was quite amazing. This guy to me is this icon of success. He got 100 health clubs. And I always remember this. I was presenting a national conference. There was about 200 people in the room. He went straight down to the front. He sat straight down the front, and he sat there, and I did my presentation. And he just wrote notes. Like, I've never seen anyone write so many notes. He wrote furiously, page after page. And I'm thinking, what's he writing, is he critiquing me? Because to me, I was doing okay, but I didn't have 100 health clubs. And then he came up to me after. He even got the recording of that presentation. I still captured that. I still got that at home. And he came up to me and he says, that was just gold. So he says, you know what I can't believe? I said, what's that? How many people just sat there like drongos and didn't take a note? Look at me. And he just piled through these notes. And I thought, wow, that's what a successful man does. They don't rely on their memory. They take notes. Because what you forget doesn't help. And no one's got a photographic memory. And I learnt that from Patch, take furious notes, and backed up by a guy called Jim Rowan. So there I had this business with Sports Elite. Karen got back to me about designing my uniform, right? And what she did is she created a screen print, right? And I had these two shirts, because they had no money, but I had these two polo shirts. They were presentable. So I set up night, I pegged the shirts, I got the screen, I got the paint, and I sort of poured the paint into the screen, and she taught me how to screen print my own shirts. And then I hang them up, and then I had Sports Elite, strength and conditioning specialists. So everything was done just barely as it happened. Next day I'm a professional, got the folder, got the badge, got the attitude, very ready for business. But the challenge I had at that time, I had this full-time position as a gym instructor, which is great. I had this business on the side called Sports Elite. I'd stopped the entertainment stuff, and I'm trying to build this business up. And I guess I was trying to build it up to a level where I could quit my job and do the Sports Elite. And if I look back at it now, I was being a monkey. A monkey, it's called the monkey syndrome, where you're hanging on to the vine of the past, and you're hanging on to the vine of the future, and you want to go into the future, but you're too scared to let go of the vine of the past. And I was like that. And then if you're hanging there onto both, where do you go? Nowhere. To go where you want to go, you have to leave where you are. You have to give up what you got to get what you want. And when you let go in the vine, which way do you go, up or down? Right? Initially, down. There's always a downward. So sometimes you have to go backwards to go. And life is like that. You've got to go backwards to go forwards. Nelson Mandela went 27 years backward to go forward. So that's a courageous individual who has an amazing character. And it takes courage to do that, to let go of security, or let go of the past, or let go of certainty, or to seek that uncertainty adventure of what you want to do. But I was holding on to it, and I was fortunate enough to have a gym manager who sat me down one day, and she says to me, look, I'm going to have to let you go. And I said, what do you mean you have to let me go? I'm a good gym instructor. And she said, yes, you are a good gym instructor. And says, then why are you letting me go? Why are you sacking me? She says, because you used to be a great one. I thought, it didn't really click to me. But until I thought back and I thought, okay, I used to be a great gym instructor when that's all my passion was. But when my passion became sports conditioning, what happened to my role as a gym instructor? I went good. I went from great to good, because and I learned that frustration is where there's a gap between your body and your mind. Peace is where your mind and the body is at the same place. So if you're here and you're dreaming being somewhere else, you're going to be frustrated. The greater the gap between the two, the more frustrated you're going to be. Think of if you're with a partner, your current partner, and you're dreaming about a different partner, is that happening? Is it going to be happening there? No, because it's never going to work. You've got to go where you're. Chase your mind, otherwise you're going to lose your mind. A lot of people stay in a job and their mind's somewhere else. Therefore they get frustrated and they're never really good at what they did. But I was fortunate where she just cut the vine, right? So I'm in a position now, I'm a full-time, my dream was to be a full-time, but I just had hardly any clients. Says, yes, I'm full-time, in full-time business. Shit, got no money, what am I going to do now? I had dribbles of money. Brett was travelling around the world, so he wasn't a constant source. I had a handful of other athletes. And my dream was I wanted to train elite athletes. I wanted to train the national best athletes. I wanted to train Olympic athletes. I thought, how do I do that quickly? Because I need money quickly. But I just wanted to do that quickly. So when I was at the gym, they used to put on this function. It was a promotional function. It was a seminar. And it was a healthy lifestyle seminar. They used to advertise it on the radio. They would book out a room in the function room in the Jupiter's Casino, and I used to help people, guide people in. They sit down. They had a panel of experts. They had a dietitian. They had a physiologist. They had a psychologist. They had all these experts. They marketed it. People came. They got about 100 people. They would listen to these experts. We'd give them a free week membership at the gym. We'd escort them down. I'd take them through a program. I'd hand them over to Janine, the salesperson. We'd sign them up as a member. It was a really good promotion. So I thought to myself, what a great idea. How about I take that idea and apply it to my business? So why don't I do a seminar for elite athletes, for athletes and coaches? And I'll get the seminar, I have a panel of experts, I have all this big audience, and I can razzle-dazzle and get lots of clients. So I thought, okay, I need a name. So when I was at the gym, they had this marketing magazine they used to get from America called Peak Performance. I thought, that's a kind of cool name, catchy name, Peak Performance in Sport. Yeah, I like that. So I call it the Peak Performance in Sports Seminar. But to give the perception that it's bigger than big, I call it the Peak Performance in Sports Seminar Series. It's a series of seminars. Wow, it must be big, right? So I got the name. I thought, okay, now I need to run this seminar somewhere, and I can't hold it in the church hall because that's the wrong perception. I can't hold it at the RSL or a cheap place. I have to find a classy place to give the perception that I'm already successful. So at that time, there's this new hotel called the Pan Pacific. It's now called the Sofitel down the Gold Coast. It's just been built. There's no monorail between it and the casino. So that's right at Central Broadbeach. So I went in there. I'd just been sacked from my job. But I went in there and I said, okay, I met to this lady. I says, I want to hire a room because I'm running this Peak Performance in Sports Seminar Series. And she says, well, tell me about that. She says, it's going to be a series of a panel of experts. And we were going to have hundreds of athletes and hundreds of coaches come to it. And she says, okay, so what you probably need to do is, probably the periwinkle room, that will hold about 200 people, or you can go to the ballroom, that will hold about 500. And I said, okay, how about you lock in the periwinkle room? If too many people come, right, then we can move into the ballroom. And I said, okay, so I said, how much would that be? And she says, for the night, it will be $200 for the night, which is a 3-hour term. Or 2 hours, I think, 2 hours I had for it. I said, $200, and I thought to myself, I don't have a $200. But I said, okay, sure, how much for the deposit? She said, $50. It was on the 2nd of February, on the Tuesday evening. I always remember the date because they're those critical times in your life you remember. And I think, okay, now I'm committed. I didn't have $50, so I went in the back of my car, finding loose change, finding money under the bed, and eventually squirreled up about $50. I couldn't go in there with a whole lot of little notes. I went to the bank, I remember, says, can I change that for a $50 note? Because I didn't have a checkbook, didn't have credit cards back then, didn't have internet banking, none of that existed. Got me $50, go in there, put it in an envelope, I hand it to her, says, there's my deposit, it's $50 note. And she said, fantastic, great. Okay, now I've got the room, I've got the name, what do I need to do now? Got the date, that's all sorted. I need a flyer, okay. I can't afford a graphic artist, I can't afford printing. But, and there's no such thing as computers. No one using computers, no such thing as PCs. The gym I was at got its first computer, and I was scared of it. There was no such thing as Windows. It was all MS-DOS. No Windows existed back then. And I just looked at this thing and said, that's scary, I'm not touching that thing. So, but a friend of mine, a guy called David Hatch, he was the manager of the Gold Coast Health and Racket Club. I heard from a mate of mine, Rob Batchelor, that he got addicted to this computer. It's a little Macintosh Apple, one of the Apple's first computers, little Macintosh. So I ring out Dave and says, Dave, I want to do this seminar. I need help with doing a brochure. Can you do that? He says, mate, I need the practice. Come over and I can practice doing my graphic art. There's no colour, it's all black and white screen, no mouse. And so I'm sitting down with him. He says, okay, tell me about what you're doing. He says, the heading is, the Peak Performance in Sports Seminar Series. Come and learn from a panel of experts on how to increase your sporting performance while reducing injury. He says, great, he got that. And I'm looking at this thing, this is amazing. He sort of taps there and it comes up there. That's just spooky stuff. The most I'd seen was a typewriter, and he just got, my mum got a new electronic typewriter. I said, whoa, ooh, look at that. Used to do that for the typewriter. So then he says to me, Dave says, so who's in the panel? I said, I'm on the panel. So the first speaker was Kman McEvoy, Managing Director, Sports Elite, Strength and Conditioning Specialist, Australia's leading experts in strength and conditioning. So he put me down there and said, wow, that looks good, doesn't it? Managing Director. All right. I always wanted to say Managing Director, you know? It's Latin for big wanker. Managing Director, there we go. That's me. Then Dave turns to me and says, okay, who else is on the panel? I said, I don't know, do you know anyone? He says, you haven't got anyone? I said, no. Can you think of anyone? He said, well, why don't you give Michael Payoff a call? He's a sports physiotherapist. He's a sports physio for the Gold Coast Giants, which back then was a version of the Titans rugby league team. They were the first club, then they went broke and they come back as the Titans. They went from the Titans to the Seagulls. He's the physio for that, the physio for the Queensland State of Origin team, the World Cup Triathlon, the Gold Coast Marathon. So I ring up Michael Payoff and I say, hey Michael, it's Kman McEvoy here from Sports Elite. He said, who? Sports Elite, you know, strength and conditioning specialist. I'd never heard of him. I said, never mind about that. And he said, okay. I said, well, David Hatch asked me to give you a call, said that you might be interested in being invited to be the representative of the expert on sports physiotherapists on the panel of experts to present at the Peak Performance and Sports Seminar Series, where you'll be speaking to hundreds of athletes and coaches. And you being Australia's leading sports physiotherapist, I wonder if you would like to take that position and be invited. And he said, yeah, sure, that sounds good to me. I said, yeah, okay, fantastic, I'll put you in that. And you know, we won't be paying you anything, but you know, you'll be able to promote your business. And you know, it's good for the industry. You know, it's good that athletes get a good guidance in that particular area. He said, okay. And then he says, is Dr. Paul Umson presenting? I said, no, he's not. I said, tell me about Dr. Paul Umson. He says, well, he's a sports physician. He's the only sports physician in Australia at that level of training. He's a sports physician for the Gold Coast Giants, the Queensland State of Origin, all these teams. And I said, okay, well, I'll give him a call. So I got his number. I'll call up Dr. Paul Umson and say, Dr. Paul Umson, it's Kman McEvoy here from Sports Elite. He said, who? And he says, never mind about that. I said, Michael Payoff asked me to give you a call. He said, oh, how is Michael? I said, oh, Michael's fantastic. Says to say hello. I said, oh, yeah, fantastic, yeah. So Michael said that you'd be probably interested in joining us on the panel of experts at the upcoming Peak Performance and Sports Seminar Series. We're going to be talking about, you know, training and methods and rehabilitation to hundreds of athletes and coaches. And you know, Dr. Umson says, yeah, well, look, if Michael's there, I'll certainly be there. He says, fantastic, I'll put you down there. I'll send out a confirmation for you. He says, okay, that's fantastic. So now I've got two and I'm thinking, okay, I need more than two, because I was thinking of looking around about six. I always remember 6 months prior to that, when I was working at the gym, I got given this gift, a gift of it wasn't a physical gift, it was just advice. It says, buy a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it came from a place who was a very successful gentleman who taught me a lot. So I bought the book, because you know, why, if you're someone who has what you got, gives you advice and you don't do it, to me you're just a friggin' idiot. Right? If you don't buy the book, then you're an idiot. So go and buy the book, because he had what I want. He was a multi-millionaire. So I'm reading this book on communication. I think this is just amazing, you know, and I realised that why people didn't like me very much after reading this book, because I'm an ass. I am a real ass, you know. I think, wow, because I've always been ambitious, always been driven, but didn't really know how to communicate, because obviously my background, right, that didn't sort of do you a lot of good. So I'm reading this book, and I remember I'm in the hallway at the Lifestyle Health and Fitness Club. This guy comes walking in. He's obviously on holidays because he's near the beach. And I practice my skills in this guy. So I go up there, I say hello, how you going, use all that stuff, make him feel welcome, ask what he does. We get a bit of chatting, and I said, so what do you do? And his name was David Keating. And I said, what do you do? And he says, look, I'm the manager of the Australian Institute of Sport. I said, wow, we've got something in common. He says, oh, really? He says, yeah, I'm in your same field. I'm from Sports Elite Strength and Conditioning Specialist. Here's my card. He went, oh, that's interesting. What do you do? He says, I train elite athletes, and I specialise in strength and conditioning to improve their performance and reduce their injury. So tell me about what you do. And off he went, found out about his family, found out about his kids. And that was about the end of it, really. This is 6 months later, and I thought, maybe I'll give David a call. So I called up the Australian Institute of Sport. I talked my way through the PA or the secretary. I got to David, eventually got to him, because I highlighted to the lady at the PA that this is a really big thing that Dave would really want to know about. So, okay, so I put you through. But I spent about probably 5 minutes just talking to the secretary, you know, nothing about what I was calling about, just having a good time, having a bit of a joke, talking about the day, tell her a joke here and then. Before you know it, she started liking me over the phone, so naturally she put me through. He says, you've got to talk to this guy, David. So pushed me through. David answered the phone. I said, David, it's Kman McEvoy from Sports Elite. He said, who? Never mind that. And I said, look, I met you when you're on the Gold Coast. You're up there on holidays with your 2 kids and your wife. I met you in the gym. He said, oh, yeah, I remember you. He says, look, just a little bit of a courtesy call just to let you know that there's this big event happening called the Peak Performance in Sports Seminar Series. There's going to be hundreds of athletes and hundreds of coaches there. There's going to be a panel of experts. We have sports physiotherapists who train the national teams. We've got sports physicians. We've got strength and conditioning specialists. Now, that's just to start with. And, because it's the year of the Commonwealth Games, which it was that year, and also because, as you know, being an expert in your field, that the growth of professional sport, because back then sport was still very amateur, but it really was growing into professions. These athletes need special guidance on management of their careers. And you being the manager of the Australian Institute of Sport, I wonder if it would be too much to ask if you could come and talk to these hundreds of athletes and coaches who need your expertise and guidance. And there's this silence over the phone. I could hear him thinking, and he said, Kerry? I said, yes. I said, it would be an honour to be on the panel. I said, fantastic, and it would be an honour to have you on the panel. So I gave him the date, and then we were chatting away, and he says, look, is Dr. Ian Liner on that panel? I said, no, he's not, no. I said, tell me about Dr. Ian Liner. I said, well, Dr. Ian Liner, he's a sports psychologist for the Australian Institute of Sport, the Australian Rugby Union. He rattled off about 5 national sporting teams. And he said his son, you may know his son. His son's name is Michael Liner, who's the captain in the 5/8 for the Australian Wallabies Rugby Union team. When they won the Grand Slam over in Europe, and I go, oh, Michael goes to the same university there I went to. He said, oh, yeah, that's him. Yeah, I said, great, yeah. So I get on to Dr. Ian Liner, I call him up, and I say, yeah, Dr. Ian Liner, it's Kman McEvoy from Sports Elite. And he goes, who? I says, yeah, look, David asked me to give you a call. He said, how is David? So, David's fantastic. He says to say hello. So, oh, yeah, fantastic. And look, he said that you want to be invited onto the panel as a sports psychologist. And, we have something in common there, Dr. Lawrence. What's that? He says, I go to the same university, or you went to the same university as your son, Michael. He says, oh, yeah, Michael hasn't finished. He got a little bit distracted with his rugby. And, I'd never met Michael in my life, but he went to the same university with 10,000 other people. But, he didn't know that. So, Dr. Ian Liner, and I'm chatting to him, and he was handy because he had his practice that time at Wickham Terrace up here in Brisbane. So he said, yeah, I'd love to be there. That'd be great. If David's going to be there, then I'll certainly be there. I says, great, well, you can join David and myself and the other panel of experts. He says, is Rhonda Anderson going to be in the panel? I said, no, she's not. He said, tell me about Rhonda Anderson. Well, Rhonda is the dietitian for the Australian Institute of Sport, and Australian this and Australian that. So I ring up Rhonda Anderson. I said, I'd love for you to be in the panel. Dr. Ian Liner highly recommends you to join us on the panel. You're going to be speaking hundreds and hundreds of athletes and coaches. And Rhonda says, yeah, of course, I'd love to. Yeah, if Dr. Liner's in and if David's in, I'm certainly. And I said, fantastic, that's great. And I'll send you a confirmation. So I go back to David Hatch and I share with him, I've got my panel. He said, great. And I shared the panel with him and he said, shit, how'd you get them? And I said, and I was just ignorant, I suppose. I didn't think too much about it. I said, I asked. I guess in hindsight, the message to that is, if you create something big people want to be a part of it. If I create a little event, they wouldn't be a part of it. But I create something big people want to be. So you want to attract big people, you got to create big things and you'll get the right people. Now, they didn't know, but because of my association, the way I put it together, I gave the perception that this was me. Now, so we do the brochure, it comes out looking fantastic, and David says, okay, so you've got to market that. I says, yes, I will. What are you going to do? He says, well, I'll go to the yellow pages, go into the sporting clubs and handwrite and send it out, which I did. He says, you're going to do a press release? I said, sure, absolutely. Then I said, what's a press release? He says, that's where you notify the press. I said, what's the press? The radio, because I didn't have any business training. So how do you do that? He says, well, you fax it to the media department. Okay, fax. What's a fax? A fax is where you put a thing in there, you dial a number, and it pops out the other end. I said, what? He says, you put the paper in here, right? Because he had one. You put it in here, you put in the phone number, yeah, and it goes through there, and it goes out the other end. It comes out there. I said, you're shitting me. That sounds evil. Really? He says, how do I know it came out? And interesting, when faxes came out, actually, people would fax and they'd call up, did you get my fax? And I, so I went, okay, so I put it in there, and I found all the contacts, and I there's no email, faxed it out. And before you know it, it wasn't long before I had the TV and the radio and the newspaper, so I'm being interviewed in Surfers Paradise about this big seminar series and on the paper, and I go, wow, this is amazing. So I got all this free advertising. I had no money for advertising. I had no money. I barely could pay the deposit for the room. On the thing I said there'll be a $2 donation to the cause of the Peak Performance Sports Seminar Series. I needed the $2 to pay for the room, because I thought, look, if I get 100 people, that's $2 times 100, doing me $200. The worst case, I'll come out even. Right? So that's what I decided to do. So the 2nd of February came, and Tuesday night came, and I thought, okay, here it comes. So I had to meet the speakers beforehand. I'd never spoken in public in my life, so this is the first time I'd spoken in front of an audience. And right, so that was challenging. We had no PowerPoints. We had this screen thing, those things like that. So I'm handwriting my notes in Texter. I didn't know how to use a computer, so I handwrote strength and power and all that bit. So I'd be creative. I used different coloured textures. That's, wow, look at that. That's real professional. So it comes to the night, I meet with the other experts, and obviously it's obvious when they meet me that I'm probably about half their age. And they meet me and they say, oh, I'm Kman McEvoy, and they say, wow, I thought you were a lot older. And I said, that's a compliment saying how young I look, thank you very much. And then we sort of meet and we get together, and the lady who sacked me from the gym, the manager, I'd forgiven her by then. So I asked her I forgave her within about 2 days, and then I found a purpose. It's just amazing. I had no money, I just had this drive, because I didn't have any anchors now. I'd freed up about 10 hours of my day just to spend on what I absolutely loved. Even though I had no results, but I just loved doing it. The screening, oh, look at that screen. Oh, that's a mess. I'll get another shirt, right? You should go in the cupboard, what shirt I use now. So the seminar comes, and I didn't know how many people were going to come, because I never put a contact number or RSVP, so I didn't know. So I'm there, says, geez, I hope someone shows up. It's really awkward if the only 2 people in the room is mum and dad, That'd be very strange. So this big panel of 6 people, 2 people, yes, that's mum. She's a great athletic cook. Dad, he's great with a whip, he's great with that thing. So they all show up, and we're waiting for them. And fortunate for me, the room was packed. There was 220 people standing around the outside, and I went, whew, thank goodness. And I guess that was the easy part. Now I actually had to speak. Everyone had 20 minutes to, and then I was about the second last, and I got up there and I started to, talk from the heart, and it was really strange because you're sort of thinking there's 220 people that you're thinking you're selling to, but really I could sort of sense what's going on behind me. I could sort of sense they're sitting there watching me, and I could sort of sense one says to the other, says, oh, so how do you know Kerry? He says, I don't know Kerry, I thought you knew Kerry. He says, no, I don't know him. So you don't know him? Does anyone know this guy? Who is this guy? Because everyone thought that they all knew me, but really no one knew me. And so while I'm standing there, they're thinking, oh, we've got to listen to what this guy has to say. And obviously I did okay. I got bucket loads of clients out of it. And then every expert in the panel started sending me their athletes. I was ended up training rugby union Wallabies. I got the contracts. David says, we need to talk. I need you on with the Australian Institute of Sport. I've got some teams I want you to look after. And then I went from, what people didn't understand, I suppose, because the audience would look at me and they'd look at me and see me a part of them. So what's their perception of me? Shit, he must be good, right? So you surround yourself with people who are far greater than you, and that will make something of you, because it puts a pressure. Go where the expectation is high. Because I gave this perception I was the world's, or the Australia's greatest strength and conditioning coach, but now I actually had to deliver on it. And that caused internal pressure to deliver on your own expectation and your perception that you're giving to the world. So it was an interesting scenario where now I started getting some work in that. Now I actually had to prove that I could walk the talk, not just talk the walk. And I guess the lesson in hindsight, now I didn't sort of start with the lesson, I did the action that taught me the lesson. You know, at university you do the lesson, then you do the test, but in real life you do the test to learn the lesson. You know, so I learn a lot from that process. But if you do things from the, you know, if you do things for the right reason and you're the right person, things will always work out, you know, pretty right. As long as you're doing it for the right reason, because people will feel that you're coming from a good place. And I think the experts really took ownership of me. Really, you know, a lot of my mentors in my life really almost adopted me. They took a liking to me. They saw I had this passion. I was many times misdirected, and they'd throw a little test at me. You know, they'd throw a test to see if I bought the book. You know, the guy who threw the test without the book was a guy called Greg Teese. I had my business in the side, Sports Elite. He came to the gym, he heard about me, and he said to me, he came in, and we had a bit of a chat, a very successful businessman. And to me at that time, he was really old. He was about 45, right? But I was only 21 or so, and I thought, God, he's old. But he's in good shape, and he's really wealthy. And he said to me, look, I'm opening up this big health club, and I want you to be a part of it. You know, I want you to bring your Sports Elite business, bring your expertise. I want you in my organisation, and we can grow it together. I said, that sounds great. I took a liking to him. And I first met him because he used to own the Narang squash courts. It's one of his many businesses, and I was playing squash there with a guy called Gerald. He was there, got a bit of a chat, got to know me, and took a liking to me. So he said, look, I need to buy gym equipment. And he said, I'll pick you up, we'll drive to Brisbane from the Goldie, we'll look at some gym equipment for this new studio, or new health club. I said, great. So he picks me up. We're driving to Brisbane, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, here I'm in the car with this guy who I saw was very successful. He was a nice guy, had lots of money, and he was always happy. To me, that was, you know, that's something I liked about it. Because I had met people who are very wealthy, but they're very grumpy, so that didn't appeal to me. So we're sitting there in the car, and I started asking him some questions, because, you know, I'm thinking, you know, how can I get to know this guy? And I said, so tell me about you. You know, tell me about some of the, you know, how you got to where you are. And he says, you know, when I was a kid, when I was your age, I used to work in the bank. And back in those days, so we're going back 20 years to another 20 years, we're doing about 40, 50 years ago, working in the bank was a very honourable position. If you got a job in the bank, you got loans for zero interest. There's a promotional. It was seen as a very successful position. Had a great aura about it. See, I got this position in the bank. Mum and Dad were proud. Everyone was proud. But I was taking money on when businesses would come in. They put the deposits in, and I'd look at the amount of money, and I thought, this business deposited in one day what I earn in a year. And I thought to myself, I'm on the wrong side of the table. I've got to get to the other side and get out from this side. So he said, I made this courageous decision against all the advice that was given to me to quit the bank and go and start my own business. Everyone thought I was a nutcase. Everyone thought I was crazy, you know, the safety, security, the future, the image of the bank, safe, 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 safe. You know, and you know, that's the way he thought. He just wanted to be on the other side. And he quit his job, and he said, I used to go to the bank because I had good friends at the bank, so I used to go back to that same bank, you know, once a year or so, just to say hello to my friends. And every year would go by, and every time I'd walk in the door, it was almost like I'd just been out to lunch. Like it was a year later, but it felt that I'd just been out to lunch. Because when I look at everyone, they're all doing the same thing. Different fashion, but they all seem to be doing the same thing. And he said, but one thing would change every year. And I said, what's that? He says, every year I went back, I was driving a better car. And at the time, he'd just bought the new released Jag sports car, which is, you know, over $200,000. And I'm sitting in it, you know, fresh leather, and wow, this is amazing. And you know, so many times in life, you've got to decide what side of the table you need to be on to live the life you want to live. And you have to be courageous enough to jump the fence. And no one dies from it. I never heard anyone die from chasing their dreams. And if they did, you know, at least they died doing what they love. At least they died doing. A friend of mine, an old guy, he used to take me up in his, you know, in his plane doing loop-the-loops and that. A guy called Howard, and you know, he died. Yeah, he crashed his plane. And he died. And I said, "Well, Howard, that's the way to go, mate. If you're going to go, you go doing what you love. You know, so you're going to die anyway. The thing is, how much you live before now and then." You know. So I learned that from Greg, and he saw, talking about security, you know, going back to Patch Evans, who owns the 100 health clubs in Canada. I remember asking him, because we got to know each other quite well. And I said, you know, why did you go in business? And he gave me the most awkward answer. He said, job security. Because most people want a job for job security. But his version of job security is to own the business. If you own the business, you're not going to sack yourself, right? And your destiny's in your own hands. So I thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, which is the opposite to how people think. You know, there's always going to be what people call a risk, but really it's an exciting transformation in your life. So Sports Elite evolved, and it grew, and before you know it, I'm traveling the country, traveling overseas, working with great athletes, and you could say you're sort of living the dream. That was my major part, that was my passion at that time. And you find with life, sometimes things change and your mind changes, you mature, and some things become less important, some things become more important. And in those years, after being in the trenches with a lot of Olympic athletes and gold medalists and national sporting teams, and I got a lot of satisfaction out of that. But I think I felt there was something which was missing. And at that particular time, I wasn't training the general public because I didn't think the public was really motivating. I thought they were just fat, lazy, and I couldn't be bothered with them. And that comes from a young 20-year-old who just, gung-ho, let's go and train athletes and win gold medals. But it didn't really give me a lot of the satisfaction. I did at the start, but that seemed to dwindle. And I always remember I had this lady ring me up. Her name was Gabrielle. And she rang me up and says, is that Kman McEvoy? I said, yeah. She says, from Sports Elite. I said, yes, look, I wonder if you can help me with a battle. I said, certainly. What sport do you play? And she said, rheumatoid arthritis. I said, well, I've never heard of that one before. I vaguely remember there was mention at uni, but I think it was one of those lectures I skipped. Tell me about that. And she said, well, I've got rheumatoid arthritis and I need some help. I said, well, you understand I only train athletes. I don't train general population. And she says, yeah, but you're my last resort. I said, what do you mean that? She says, I've been around the world. She's a wealthy lady. She's lived at Sanctuary Cove. I said, I've been around the world. I've been a specialist. The last 10 years I've been on chemotherapy. Nothing seems to work. Everyone tells me contradictory things. But I heard about you and what you're doing. I heard you're a really nice guy. And someone said to me, if anyone can help, you can help. And I thought, wow, there's some pressure. And I think, okay, well, look, I don't know if I can help you. But how about we organise to get... Because I was just curious to meet this lovely, seemed like a really old lady on the phone, lovely old lady. So I met her down at Sanctuary Cove, and she came in, and she was only in her 50s, but she looked about 80. She was, muscle-wasted, she was pale and all sorts of stuff, and she sat down, you can see this little face of desperation, and she said, what can I do, can you help me? And I thought to myself, because I thought exercise was the solution to everything, and I still in a way believe that if you're fit and healthy, many times you won't get the disease, and if you do have the disease, getting fit and healthy can only be helpful. So I said, look, I don't really know what I'm doing about rheumatoid arthritis, but I'll do some research and we'll see how we go. I can't make any promises because, I'm as blind as you in this area. But how about together we give it a crack and we'll see what we can do. And it was really odd. So she said, yes, that'd be great. And I started to research rheumatoid arthritis. I found out what it was, but there's no guidelines on exercise. But I met with her, and I met her in the gym, and there was so little I can do with her because I'm used to guys, squatting massive weights and or this bit, and she sort of, just barely be able to walk. And I started using flexibility. And I just did some real stuff and just fought my way through it, and it was amazing because I remember laying her down on the incline bench press, and I put these little tiny weights. So we had a class back in there called New Body. These little tiny weights that they have velvet on them. And I said, grab these weights, and she grabbed the weight, and I thought to myself, wow, there's no weight, that's nothing, you might be pushing air molecules. But I saw her face just light up. She went, and then I helped her do a close dumbbell press, and I just saw this spark come. And I thought, wow, that's just odd. What's going on here? You're lifting no weight, why are you excited? I was ignorant, and I was thinking that. And I guess what I learned is the power of doing something can change people's attitudes so quickly. Just any action, doesn't matter. And I learned then a lesson of anything's better than nothing. Any action, no matter how irrelevant, it will lead to some form of a sense of achievement of an action that even if they're just mentally taking a step towards their goal. And it doesn't matter what it is. Because I was used to pushing athletes to big goals, what I saw big goals. But her goal was just to overcome this disease that was just eating her body away. And she was going through there, and I said, okay, is that okay? And she says, oh, that just feels, oh, that's tough. And I thought, you didn't lift anything. I didn't say that. But I'm thinking, what's going on here, you know? And I was sort of perplexed, because I hadn't experienced this before. I come from a different world. So we keep training, and then it got to the stage where I thought, you know, is this really doing anything? I didn't think that there was any huge leaps and bounds. I'd asked her the next day, how are you? So, I'm really sore today. I couldn't get out of bed. I said, really? You know, you're shifting stuff around. And she says, oh, yeah, Kerry, that's pretty tough. I go, really? Understanding that it doesn't take much to flare up rheumatoid arthritis. And there's some critical points in that journey that really affected me and changed my whole mindset. She came in one day, and I was almost at the time where I was going to say to Gabrielle, I said, you know, I don't think this is working. You know, you give me money, I don't think you're making any difference. I don't want to waste your money, waste your time. So it's almost at the stage of, I don't feel comfortable taking someone's money if I don't think it's actually having an effect. But she sort of came in, she had this glow about her, she had this smile. And I said, yeah, you look like the cat who ate the budgie. What's going on here? And she said, oh, I've had a fantastic morning. I said, really? Now, she lives with her son because she can't live by herself. And most days she is in bed because she can't move. And she says, I said, what happened? She says, I was in the kitchen and I reached for the top cupboard and I opened up the cupboard. And I took out a can of baked beans and I put it on the counter. I said, and she says, isn't that amazing? And I went, yeah. Tell me about that. And she said, Kerry, I've not been able to put my arm above my head, open up a cupboard, let alone take out a can of baked beans for the last 5 years. And now I feel I've started getting some freedom. I went, wow. Now at that stage, I had trained people to win Olympic gold medals. I'd trained people with the World Championships. I'd trained guys who won $10 million contracts in Major League Baseball, but nothing was as powerful as that moment. And I thought, wow, you know, and a lot of the time a gold medal is just a gold medal, but this is life, this is real stuff. And not taking away from the athletes and what they do, but this was just like, I'm really making a difference here to this lady. And, you know, I always remember another time I said, how's your week been? She says, I've had a fantastic week this week. You know, I said, yeah, you've been eating budgies again, have you? And she says, oh yeah. She says, what's so good about this week? She says, this week I've had more good days than bad days. Because most days when she came were all bad. Waking up, constant pain, drugs to suppress the pain, analgesic, anti-inflammatories, chemotherapy, and now these is more good days than bad days. And that's where I guess I started to redirect my services to general public rather than I suited athletes. I was doing two. So I went into this term called personal training, which I've never heard before. I went to the United States. I presented some research at an international strength and conditioning conference. And while I was over there, I did some market research throughout the United States for 6 weeks. Basically, all I did is drink my way through the United States. I lost a few days in New Orleans. You know? I went with a mate of mine who's now a professor in exercise science, and we just drank our way through. But we worked hard. We worked with the Chicago Bulls over there, some of the national sporting teams. He invented this power machine, computerized power machine. So went there, presented some research, worked with some teams, but then we just sort of partied a lot. But I visited the Gold's Gym and all the gyms, and I came across this term called personal training. I never heard of it before, it wasn't in existence in Australia. And I thought, well, I'm sort of already doing that. I've been doing that since 1988. That's when I first started Sports Elite. I've been doing that since 1988. So I'll call it personal training. So I went back to Australia. I opened up a business called Gold Coast Personal Trainers, and I went into a studio. I opened up a studio straight away. There's no such thing as studios, never. And the resistance I got to that was just amazing, because when I said I'm doing personal training, people say, what's that? I said, well, that's where people pay me to train them. And it was this, why'd they do that for? Why would someone pay you to train them when they can go and join a gym and train by themselves? And that was the mindset. And I'd been in gyms, and what I realised, if I write a program for someone, they never did it anyway. So yes, I'd write a new program, and they'll go out there and they'll fail and they'll fail and they'll fail. I thought, well, if I could see them every week, then I can help them actually achieve. I always remember speaking to my sister-in-law, and I was having a drink at her place, and I was thinking about personal training, and I was at that stage. And a good lesson here: be careful who you share your dreams with, right? And I said, I'm going to do this personal training, and people said, "What's that?" Well, people will pay me to train them, and they'll pay me, $30, $40, $50, whatever it might be. And she looked at me and she said, Kerry, there's no way that anybody in Brisbane will ever pay $30 for a personal trainer. And I said, you're right. That's why I'm charging $50. I just had to stir her up, right? Because you share something, she's trying to shit on it, right? So they'll fire me up even more, Remember Tom with the finger? Okay, boom. No way? Yeah, right, $50, take that. And obviously, those things are good. Frank Sinatra says, the greatest revenge is massive success. Sometimes it's not a good long-term motivator, right? Because you end up angry. But it's a good short-term. When people say you can't do it, you go and do it. Because every go I've had massive resistance from the people around me. Massive resistance, because they don't understand it. But when you're on the right path when everyone's resisting it. If it's a new path and you can see the path and you see this is valuable, this is what they want. Everyone's seen the Steve Jobs movie? Right? Another one of my favourites. He's doing a presentation to a bunch of venture capitalists to make personal computers. So he had all the people with the money, all the business experts, and one guy says, who would pay for a personal computer? Another guy says, and if they did, what would they do with it? No vision, right? Now life is driven by personal training. Is rampant, right? Back then it was resisted. But I believe now is the most important thing. And if I was going to fail, then I'm going to fail big time. I have a crack at it. And even then I get back up and do it again. So I opened up Gold Coast Personal Trainers. That was going nice. I had a little studio. And it grew. I was very clumsy in how I ran it because I hadn't anyone to guide me. There's no courses in personal training. There's no courses in fitness. So I opened up this business and that all went fantastic. Eventually I needed to grow and I needed to get trainers. And one of the challenges I had was to find trainers who were trained. They came out of university like I did knowing nothing. They were just nothing. So I thought, okay, how can I train these people? So I put this little course together to train people to come in and be a part of my team. And it was a short course. It was only about a one-day course. So it was initially an internal course for my trainers. But word got out in the profession, and people started ringing up and saying, oh, here you got this weight training course. Can we come to it? I said, sure. And they said, yeah, because we hear you're really good at strength training. You really know your stuff, and we want to learn from it. So we want to go in that field. And they say, how much is it for the day? And I'd say, $50. They go, great. I said, great. A lot of thought went into that one. I just plucked it out of my bum. And before I know it, I had 30 people coming to this one-day course. 30 people by $50, $1,500. I thought, that's easy. And I got to get up and talk about what I know about. And take them to the gym, give them some stuff. So I guess in essence, that was the start of education. But it was a small part because I had Sports Lead, I had Gold Coast Personal Trainers. That was going well. Then I took another business called Gut Busters, which was a men's health program, a corporate program. So I'd be standing in front of 20 guys with big guts, and I'd be teaching them how to change their life. That was very enlightening because I got a bit of contact with the general public who told me how they thought, and that was a wonderful experience. And that sort of grew. Before you know it, I had these 3 businesses going well, and then over time, that I used to call it the Sports Elite Fitness Leader Training Program. I had to call it something. And I thought I'd advertise it now because people were coming anyway. So I put a little brochure, Sports Elite Fitness Leader Training Program. I ran the Peak Performance Seminar Series for about 3 years, regularly throughout. But my focus is direction towards general public. And I had a PT studio. I built that to 160 sessions a week at $50 a session. I had about 6 trainers. We were doing about $400,000 turnover in a tiny little studio, probably about that big. Tiny. So rent was low, no cost. And my first studio, I said, okay, I need equipment. I don't have much money, so I went down to the Sportsman Warehouse. They didn't have light commercial equipment. I couldn't afford the top commercial equipment because that was really expensive. It was only University, which is really expensive. And I went down, I bought this little power rack, your little power rack, and there was a chin-up bar on the top, and there was a dip bar at the back. You could do bench press squats. I bought this little plate-loaded row lap pull-down machine, and I bought one of those little tin-time bikes, boxing bag, and a rack of hexagonal dumbbells. And the total investment was $2,150. And I set it up, and I thought, okay, now I'm in business. And I eventually built my clientele. And it was a small little studio, and I realised that people didn't buy the equipment they were buying. Me. Didn't matter what the equipment was. So you didn't have to spend a lot of money on equipment. They bought the magic and you as a trainer. And I started getting this great little team of personal trainers together. And then I started to advertise this little course I ran twice a year, 2 days a year, one in the first half of the year, one in the second half of the year. And then that was just a little side thing. But I thought that's starting to evolve into something different. So they expanded to a 2-day course, to a 3-day course, to a 4-day course. Then at that time there was an organisation called the Queensland Fitness Accreditation Council as a part of the Australian Fitness Accreditation Council, so forming this industry body because the industry was just growing at that stage. And they rang me up and said, we hear you got this course, I wonder if we can use that as a template for registration. And I said, yeah, sure, that's all right. And all the states were segmented, they all had their own bodies. So I gave them my template for the course that I over time developed. A mate of mine had a course at the university, showed me how to set it up and objectives and all the stuff, make it look really formal. And I went, well, that really is impressive. It just doesn't mean anything, but it looks impressive. So they used that as a template, and before you know it, they accredited my course, so you can become a registered fitness leader. Not a gym instructor, not a rope instructor. The personal training didn't exist at that time. It was a fitness leader. Whatever that means, who knows? But it sounded impressive. I'm a fitness leader. Great. Means you can work in a gym, knowing what you're doing. So in that time, I guess in that time frame, I was passionate about strength. My drunken mate I went through United States with, he was going up in the chain in the university system in the research. He said to me after too many red wines by his fireplace down at Lennox Head, he said, why don't you do your master's degree? I said, why not? Should I? So he said, great, I'll supervise you, and you can do some research on the athletes you're working, and we'll do some research together, get it published, do a thesis, and you get your master's degree. I said, sure, why not? And I guess, to me, I said, why not? Because it's a big goal. I never saw myself as an academic, but I thought if I did that, it would make something of me. Sometimes you set a goal that's going to make something of you. And if it's a goal which also will make something of you, give you more credibility. Because I understand that when I got the sports elite and I got hired by all those professionals, what they didn't realise, they thought I was a professional and the leading expert, but really what I really was I an unemployed gym instructor who just got fired. But what was their perception of me? Wow. You write this down. I shared this with a lot of people who are asked this. You don't have to be the best to be the most successful. You don't have to be the best to be the most successful. Now, some things you do, I understand that, but a lot of things you don't. You just have to get the perception of being the best to be the most successful. That in turn will create an internal pressure to be the best. Sometimes you create the perception, commit to it, and that puts the pressure for you to live up to your own expectation. Some people call it fake it till you make it, right? Well, you've got to fake it, do it, then make it, right? A lot of people miss the do. just go through life faking. But you actually got to do something in between, something big. So when the opportunity came to do my masters, I thought, okay, how can I turn this into an opportunity? I'll work with the athletes who give me credibility, I'll get a master's degree, and the teams I do the research, they'll be paying me to do it, because essentially I'll keep training the teams that I was working with. But in that process, I ended up getting my master's degree, doing a couple of research publications, which is a great learning curve, and learning a lot about research and how it's done and how silly some of it is and how great some of it is, depending on how you look at it. That's why I presented over there in the United States. And I was presenting at conferences. I started presenting at conferences. I started committing to putting in to present at conferences, physio conferences, national fitness conferences, international conferences. And I guess one of the things was that, there's great for self-promotion. But the other thing is, if I put myself up in front of 200 people who I see as highly well-trained, highly well-educated, then they will force me to know my stuff. See, I learnt that when I had the panel of experts. I couldn't get up there and speak shit. Because a sports physician, a sports physio would see right through it. So I actually had to know my stuff. I had to know my anatomy, I had to know my physiology, I had to understand how it all worked. So yes, I fumbled my way through university to pass the test. But my learning really started after university to pass the test of life. Because you can't fake it in life. You can cheat in university and you work out ways how to get through it, and you can work out what's on the exam, and as you possibly can to get through. But in life, that doesn't work. It just doesn't work that way. You can cheat, but you won't get the result. You can fake it, but you won't get the result. You actually have to do it. And not do little things, but do things that scare you. Things that scare you, and now you know you're on the right trail. If it scares you and it's heading in the right direction, if it doesn't scare you, it's too small. If it doesn't scare you, it's too small. Of course I was scared when I was doing the conference. Of course I was scared when I looked at Gabriel and said yes to training rheumatoid arthritis, even though I knew nothing about it. I say yes to it, then I work it out. Because I know I backed myself. I said yes to the lawn mowing. Why not? I don't know how to lawn mow, but I'll work it out. At the end of that story, I got a phone call from another guy in the lawn mowing. He said, do you do landscaping? I said, of course. He says, well, I've got this beautiful big property. It's all overgrown. I just bought it. It's got all these lodges and this massive rock garden. I need you to re-landscape it. Yeah, we can do that. I hang up with the phone. I said to Pete, says, what's landscaping? I said, I don't know. So we'll just get there and work it out. So we arrived at this place at Stanford. And there's this big rock garden all overgrown, and this guy runs says, you guys look pretty young. He says, yeah, but we're eager. So I said, okay. So I got in there, I'm pulling out weeds, we're cleaning it out, and we got probably a good month of work out of that. But he saw our work ethic, and the guy took a liking to us, so he kept giving us new jobs to do. I always remember this. I had this garden bed, I cleared it out, and there's this plant there, right? This thing growing out. And I'm looking at it. I said, Pete, he comes over, says, what? Says, this thing here. Says, yeah, says, is it a weed or is it a plant? And he says, I don't know. Because how some weeds have flowers and they look like plants? If in doubt, pull it out. So I put it out. Because it would be odd, the guy comes, there's and I've left all the weeds. Aren't they lovely? Yeah. So I kept the obvious plants, put up the things I wasn't sure about, went down to the nursery where you get all the plants, because I had to, plants and stuff. I remember going in there, I said, look, I need some plants for a rock garden. The guy says, okay, we can do that. What type of soil is it? I said, it's brown. He says, got any more detail? I said, just give me something that won't die. And it did die. I always replaced it with my own money. So we got this massive amount of work there, and we finished the contract. And then, you go through this little dirt driveway to get to these beautiful lodges which we cleaned up. And I remember he said to me, I was about to finish up, and he says, Kerry, I said, yes. And he said, do you know how to make driveways? I said, of course. And he says, as you see, the driveway's washed away, and we need a new driveway to lay it down. He says, okay, well, let me work that out for you, and I'll get back to you. Great. And I said, Pete, you know how to make driveways? He says, I don't know. I said, well, you have to work it out, okay? So my brother, he's got another schoolmate called John Bush, and John Bush used to be a concreter because he did my brother's driveway. He came into the concrete, and I said, John, I need help. I want to do this big driveway. Can you help us out? Sure. So before you know it, we're making driveways. 14 years of age. Interesting, right? So you can work it out. And if you do commit to it, you'll find a way. You find the right people, commit to a big job, you find the big people to help you out. It seems to be that case. If you commit to nothing, you attract nothing. If you commit to little things, you attract little people. If you commit to big things, you attract big people who will help you. Do big things, and big people will arrive. Because people want to be a part of success. They want to be a part of a bigger picture. They want to be a part of something of significance. So I was presenting at conferences, and it was interesting. I always remember this conference. I was presenting at the international, it wasn't called Filex back then, it was called the Network Conference. So it was a conference of about 2,000 people. I'm talking about strength and conditioning, shuffling the feathers of a lot of people, telling them sorts of stuff which is contradictory to their beliefs. So it was a lot of fun. You know, so I'm there and I'm talking about this. I came in with this new concept that no one ever heard of. It's called abbreviated training. Abbreviated training, because as I was venturing through the process of self-discovery and understanding anatomy, I realised that everyone was wrong. Right? The world is wrong, I'm right. Right? Because I knew my anatomy and I thought, well, what we're doing, because I used to do that training is just so outdated, it's so wrong, it's so ineffective, it's so inefficient. There's a better way. It's called abbreviated training, which is quality over quantity. So I had this principle where you could train at least once a week for half an hour and get the same results as if you trained 4 or 5 times a week for an hour. And that was the model of my business. And it was a really good model. It really worked. My clients were great. My athletes were winning gold medals on it. Bodybuilders were winning national titles on it. You know, some more. The rest of them were sort of doing the other thing. And so I presented the research. So I did all the research. So I looked at the studies and the research backed up my findings. So I'm doing this presentation on abbreviated training. Now, at this area, I'm still learning the process of professionalism, right? So I'm standing there at this international conference. I've got my polo shirt. I've got my little sports elite there. I've got Gold Coast personal trainers there. I'm wearing my little shorts, showing off my magnificent quads, right? So I hadn't really evolved for that professional, but I'm doing okay. And there's a group there, and this lady walks down the aisle, around the middle. She walks in. I always remember, she walked in, it was like a light. She just sort of, this little head. And then she goes right down. She walks up to me and says, "Is this the seminar on abbreviated training?" I said, "Yep." And she said, "Great, all right. The one presented by Kman McEvoy?" I said, "Yep." She says, "Great." She sits down, she gets the note, and she's writing there. And she says, "Where's Kerry?" I said, "I'm Kerry." She says, "You're a bloke." Says, "Yes, last time I checked." Says, "Kerry's a girl. I came here because it's a girl talking to her about abbreviated training." I said, "Sorry to disappoint you." I said, "You're Kerry?" I said, "Yeah." "Okay." And her name was Rowena Cesarin at that time, right? So she stood out. She was right in your face. She was a light. She came. The thing I noticed the most about her, she had these little short denim shorts. She had these super brown, magnificent athletic legs. She had the little crop top with the six-pack. She had a body to die for, short blonde hair, a lot of attitude. And that's how we all dressed back then. So the students now, they'll have a go at that dress, but I'm having a go at me. That's what I used to wear. Right? So a lot of passion, but not a lot of financial success. She sat there, she took furious notes, and she was very excited because I was the first person she'd come across in the country to talk about abbreviated training. She just came back from the States. She did a seminar over there by a guy called Dr. Wayne Westcott, who was saying the same stuff I was saying. She'd implemented her gym called Webster's World of Fitness, and she had this personal training business just going nuts. No one else knew what to do with personal training. There weren't many personal trainers. Gyms didn't know what to do with it. They didn't understand it. I had a studio making a lot of money out of it. It was in money, but I was spending more than I was earning. And Ro had this gym. So at that particular time, from a professional point of view, we were in the same direction, right? At that time, I was 1 week out of being married, so 1 week after I was married, she was engaged. So nothing was going on there, but hey, there was a lot of this professional sort of respect going on. 12 months down the track, I'm presenting the conference. She shows up again, and she's taken notes. She asked me to start to work with her club and train her staff, because no one knew about abbreviated training. Because I had a scientific background, I had the research, had the know-how, so I was helping her with the staff to come on board with the concept. My team was pretty good because I trained them. Over time, naturally, one thing led to the other. Years passed by. I'd separated from my wife. She'd broken up with her bloke, and we sort of got together, and rest is history, I suppose. But we had this same philosophy, same values, same concepts, same beliefs, but we did it in different ways. She did in the gym, I did in a studio. One of a good friend of mine, a mentor, a guy I respect massively, is a guy called Michael Burke. He owns the Independent Workout. If you ever get a chance to go there, he doesn't run anymore. His son Anthony does, one of the best health clubs in the world. just a family-oriented business. And Michael had this, he was onto abbreviated training too, based on the old principles of a guy called Arthur Jones and Ellington Darden, who brought it up many, many years ago. So he rings me up and he says, you're doing something with personal training. Can you help us out? I said, sure, Michael. So I go there, we have a chat, I do a seminar. He asked us to work with his staff to show him how to put together personal training to make money out of it. So I trained his staff. It was just a favour, just as one friend to the other. Spent the day with them, did a seminar, launched the personal training, and it took off in that club. After 12 months, he'd made a lazy $70,000 profit out of it just by having it there, and he said, this is really good. He heard another mate of mine, a guy called Rick Kazali, on a health club. You know the song, Up There, Kazali, in there, for those AFL. He's the nephew of the Kazalis. He owned a health club. He calls me up and says, I hear you're doing some great stuff with personal training. I said, oh, okay. Can you come down to Tasmania? He says, look, I'm coming down there in about a month's time. I'm setting up all the accreditation educational system down there for fitness, so we'll catch up. Ro comes down. We start working with Rick. Ro spends a bit of time. I'm doing mostly some education stuff. Ro's working with Rick, showing him what to do. Rick started making a lot of money out of personal training. So I guess we had this ability to know how to make money out of personal training by not conforming to everyone else. This unique way of doing it, high value, very time efficient, got the results, and the marketplace just loved it. All the technicians and all the other trainers hated our guts. They completely despised us because they didn't believe in what we're doing. I presented at a conference, and I'd be there talking about the science of strength training. You only need to do one set. You only need to do this. And I'd have a guy, I always remember this, I'd stand up, and they'd just really stand up in the first 10 minutes, walk out, and they'd deliberately yell out, this is fucking bullshit. And I go, have a great day, all right? So that's okay, now I've got rid of them. So any great idea will meet the great resistance from the average. That's a great, Einstein quotes that. Any great idea will meet massive resistance from the average mind. So if you have a great concept and you're meeting massive resistance, then there's a good chance that you're on the right path to developing something unique and valuable that will make you an iconic leader in the world. Whether that be Apple, whether it be Nelson Mandela, whether it be Microsoft, all of these people who had, when Howard Schwartz started Starbucks, everyone was saying to him, who would spend money on coffee? And that's going back in the 70s. So, but he just went with his passion and resisted the opinions from the small minds. So there's something, you all got dreams and you all want to do what you want to do, but sometimes what's stopping you is you're listening to the wrong people. You got the wrong circle of influence. You're surrounded by small minds. You're surrounded by pessimists. Right? So your circle of influence does have a massive effect, but you've got to be smart enough to suck people out of your life. Suck them out of your life. And if they're close to you, then you just got to coach them softly out of your life, because you may want to do it in a nice way. Sometimes you just need to cut, right? They're cancer. They're cancer. I had a cancer cut out here, right? It's an ugly now. It'll come good. So that little cancer. Now you can't afford to keep that there, right? If I keep that, well, what's it going to do? Yeah. Don't go, oh, what if I hurt its feelings? It's a nice cancer. We've been close for a long time. What if I hurt? Oh, no, cut it out. Right? I don't go, oh, be gentle. Say to my surgeon, cut that sucker out and get the whole lot, right? Because it will heal and my hand will go backwards a bit, but it will come good and it will be better than what it was before. Some people in your life are cancer. They are. And they mean well, they have good intentions, but they are what they are. Don't try to change them, just move on. Who's on your team? Because it's a team, you need a support team. You select your team players and you sack the team players. The ones who aren't performing, who aren't supporting. So we developed this, it was sort of like a friendship type thing, and to my mates. And then I get this phone call from a guy called John Atkins. He owned Bodyworks Health Clubs over at Macrobat. I think it's now a Living Well, or what is it, Living Well? One of the big changes there now. Might be a Fitness First, one of the big ones. They end up tearing it down and rebuilding it to a mega centre. But it was a big centre back then called Bodyworks. And he rings me up. He says, John Atkins here, I hear you have this personal training system. I said, really? He said, yeah. I was talking to Michael Burke, and he said, you really got this fantastic personal training system to put in the health club. So I said, yep, And I'm thinking to myself, what personal training system? Like, I just go and help a couple of mates, give them some advice, they go and do it, and they make money. And he says, I wonder if you can implement that into our health club. I said, sure. And he says, how much does it cost? And I said, $2,000. Sounded good. He says, okay, so what does it entail? I says, well, it entails 1 day of training. I'm making this up on the spot. 1 day of training, and then we do a launch it to your members, and then we'll give you all the systems and the marketing and the how to train your staff and how to charge and all that bit. So, okay, so when can you start? He says, I'll send you a check. Great. Hung up the phone. I turned to Ro, because we were together then in the early years, and I said, we just got to implement our personal training system into Bodyworks. And she said, what system? I said, the one we're about to write. So, really, he says, what's with that? I said, I don't know. He just wanted help. He asked me how much, so I said, $2,000. Is that all right? She says, yes. All right, fair enough. I don't care. She never does anything for money anyway. She does. She give her money. She goes, oh, here go. Give it to the puppy dogs, or give it to someone who needs it, which is good. And he's got a heart like that. So we're sitting there. I had a computer by then, and we're sitting there writing the manuals and the brochures and all sorts of stuff and the marketing material and the systems. So we go in there. We run the seminar. We meet with John, lovely guy. We work with the trainers for the day. They come on board. Some are resistant because they come from a different religion. We said, you've got to cut that one out, keep that one, get rid of that one. Because when you're implementing something new, you can't have internal resistance. It's just not going to work. You can't afford to keep some people on because they're resisting the change. We did the launch, and the launch was huge. We got about 300 people, or 200 people to the launch. I had a huge aerobic room, and aerobics was really big, and it was jam-packed. And we did this presentation, and that's when I first started really professional speaking, because I just got to speak to hundreds of people. So I didn't do a lot of speaking when I was doing sports sleep, but this I started to do. And we used to call it how to drink beer, eat chocolate, and still lose weight. We launched it, promoted the personal training, met a lady called Mana Giron. She was the PT manager there, became the PT manager. Later on, she came to work for us as a lecturer. And at that time, we thought, well, what are we going to call this thing? And, systemised, we came up with systemised personal training. So it ended up becoming SPT, systemised personal training. So we implemented John Atkins. Before you know, word started to spread. I get this phone call by a guy called Justin McDonald. I think he now owns Snap Fitness. He owns one of the big chains. But he used to own a Fernwood back then. He asked us whether we can come and talk at the Fernwood conference. And this wasn't my dream, by the way. I didn't have this plan to go and implement personal training systems. I already had a great life. I had a studio on the beach. I was earning enough money to spend all the money. I was training. So I earned a lot, but I just blew the whole lot, right? So I just spend money, and I'll shout, let's go there. I had the sports elite business, and everything was going nicely. And he asked, we went to the Carrabin, and they had the Fernwood National Conference. There was 19 clubs back then. Now there's well over 80 Fernwood clubs. Met these wonderful people. I just loved their passion. We just got on like a house on fire. A lady called Diane Williams, a big female D, but just full of passion. And John Clough is the nicest bloke you'd ever want to meet. He's an ex-powerlifter. And they built this system because they believed women should do weight training. And that was her passion. And because I was so passionate about weight training, she says, I need you in our business to teach these girls how to lift weights. Deadlifts, none of this crap. None of this bullshit. This, come and do deadlifts, squats. And so she was right into it. And when we presented, we had no intention to work with them. I just said, look, we'll share some ideas. You take them on board, but we're not interested in any form of contract we're not selling you anything. We're not selling nothing. Please do not even think that ask us to come and implement the system, because we don't have a system. We're just here as a favour. All right. So we get up there and speak, and before you know it, they said, oh, we need you. Diane's sitting in this corner. You've got to come and implement this system. And you can't say no to someone like that. She just doesn't accept it. So before you know it, we had this contract to work with 19 health clubs, Fernwood. So before you know it, we're travelling around the country implementing personal training systems into Fernwood. And because I didn't want to do it, I kept putting the price up, trying to deter people from actually taking it, because I didn't want that lifestyle travelling around the country. But every time I put the price up, they even got more excited. It was really odd. So word spread, and before you know it, we're working with the big chains, and they weren't, Fitness First didn't exist back then, or did overseas, but not in Australia. The big chains were Fernwood, Lifestyle had 10 clubs in Melbourne. There was Fitness Perfection in Adelaide, they had 6 clubs. War Sports in Brisbane, they had 10 clubs, and BC's over in Perth, they had 10 clubs. So they were the big players. And it wasn't long before they're calling us up, because word spreads. Word just spreads that, you put this system in, you make bucket loads of money, because people didn't know what to do with personal training. And the health club owners were irritated with personal trainers. They come in there, they were like prostitutes, they come in there, do their business, take the money, walk out the door, put the money in their sock, and they didn't know what to do with them. And I said, why are you letting personal trainers in your own business for? They're coming in and bastardising your business, they all conflict each other, they rape the business out of your money, and they take off, and you get the bad reputation. Why don't you systemize it? You think McDonald's allows someone to come into their facilities, open up a hot dog store, in their facilities? You go to McDonald's, it's all systemized. It's one product, one team, one values. That's what it is. So eventually they got around that, said this is good. So that's what systemized personal training did. Taught them some basic principles and values and systems. Everyone had on board. Now the great learning curve for us is that every time we go into a new club, there'll be massive resistance from the trainers, because the trainers already knew everything, right? Trainers know everything. And all of a sudden they'll pay us money to come in to change the religion of the trainers. Now, we got really good at communication. At first I used to go head to head with people, right? Smash them with research, smash them with anatomy, and they would hate me. That really didn't work. So over time we started to learn communication skills, how to get people on board, how to coach people off board. And over the time frame, we were working with over 150 health clubs around Australia and New Zealand. And it was a great learning curve, but the challenge was never really my dream. It was something which I just got drawn into. In the process of that, we got this reputation of we do things differently, but a very good different. And people used to say, or clubs used to say, have you got the McEvoy system in? So no one called it SPT, they called it the McEvoy system. Because it really was driven by Ro and I's passion, and that we were really the seed. And then it built up, and other clubs would say, have you had the McEvoys in? So the SPT became the McEvoy system, and then they'd say, have you got the McEvoys in? And then it sort of has, have you had the Macs in? The Macs, the 2 Macs. You've got to get the Macs in, they'll fix up your club, they'll show you how to money. And before you know it, they used to call us the Macs, because Ro and I were a duo, right? Everywhere we went together. And that wasn't a good thing, by the way, right? It was good at the time, but it wasn't a good thing. So in that process, we became the Macs. And in that process, Ro nicknamed me Max. So over time, my nickname became Max, only for her and me. She, outside I'm called Kman, but Ro calls me Max. Then it became Maxwell. Now when I'm in trouble, it's Max. So she says, Maxwell. I know, oh yes, darling. Max, I pretend I didn't hear. Max, I didn't hear, right? But the interesting part of that is that when we the last year of SPT, we spent 11 days off at home. The rest of the time we'd be in hotels, on planes, in businesses and all sorts of stuff. And a lot of things happen. Health was compromised, I suppose. We still exercise every day, but when you eat more than what you burn off, you're still going to get fat, right? So I became a bigger version of myself. I was a giant, I was a giant in the, but I carry it well, so I tend to carry it, all over. So I just look like a big rugby player in a suit, but really underneath it, I'm just a blubbering mess. What? Bulking. I was bulking for something which I didn't know. But the challenge we had is Ro and I, we spend every minute of every day together, and that's not good for any relationship, because you lose your independence and you become, you're my other half. Well, that 1 on 1 equals 2. It doesn't work that way. But it was a great journey. At the end, we tried to manoeuvre ourselves out of it. And at the same time, in that journey, I changed the name of Sports Elite Fitness Leader Training Program to the National College of Fitness, because it more represented what we did. So before I know it, I had the National College of Fitness, I had SPT, we had Gold Coast Personal Trainers, which turned into NCF Lifestyle Coaching Studios, I had Gutbusters and Sports Elite. So I had 5 businesses. And over time, what I learned, it's very hard to ride 5 horses when you got 1 ass. So I was doing an average job of everything, but good enough to get by. So in that last year of SPT, we were sort of compromising our health, and we said, we have to stop this. And it was really interesting that one of the last big contracts we did was Fitness Perfection, and Perfect Fit, sorry. Chain of A6 health clubs. And I remember Norm Virgo called me up and says, I want you to come in and put SPT into our studio, or into our clubs. And Rob Hornsey from our Lifestyle raised about this. They're doing $100,000 turnovers every month in one of their clubs, and all sorts of stuff. So it's really, and I go, oh yeah, look, and so, how much is it? And I thought, well, I was putting the price up, and I thought, look, I'll just put it out of his reach. So I said, it'll be $6,000, right? He says, what that involves? Well, it involves 2 days of training and a launch at each of your clubs. And I thought that will scare him. And he said, well, okay, we'll take that. I said, okay, fair enough. That didn't work. So I put a proposal together. I sent it down to him, and as I'm writing out the proposal, I thought, okay, 6 clubs at $6,000, that's $36,000. But I'm a nice guy. I'll give him a little bit of a discount, so I'll make it $5,500 a club, and I send him a proposal for $30,000 for 2 days' work. Well, that's not too bad. I can live with that. So sent it off to him, and about 5 days later, he calls me up and he says, I got your proposal. I said, yeah. I said, look, I'm a little bit confused that you may have sent me the wrong proposal. I says, why is that? He says, you got a proposal here for $30,000. I said, no, that's the right proposal. He said, well, you said it was $6,000. I said, but yeah, I said, it is, but isn't it great? I gave you a discount to $5,500. Times 6 clubs is $30,000. He says, no, you said $6,000 for the entire 6 clubs. I said, I think you misheard. It is $6,000 per club for the 6 clubs. It's per club. And I gave you a discount for $500, and isn't that generous of me? And she says, look, I just won't get this through the board. That is just way out of reach. Can you do anything? I said, look, hey, I can't do anything, but never mind. That's okay. If it's out of reach and you can't afford it, that's fine. All the best with your personal training. I wish you all the best, and it was lovely to meet you, and have a fantastic journey. Hung up, I didn't care. 2 days later, he rings me up. Okay, when can you come? Because ultimately, you buy a system that earns you, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and I'm only asking $5,500. So I didn't care, but if they couldn't see what it can become, then that's their misfortune, not mine. And I didn't need the business. I was sort of happy to be at home on the beaches and Surfers Paradise. So before you know it, we're down in Adelaide and implemented the system. We started doing some retraining. And one of the times we were training, Ro and I, we'd just come back from this huge journey around the country, doing training around the country. We'd been away for 2 weeks, and this is what our life would be like. We'd come back in, we lived in this beautiful resort on the beach, on the Broad Beach, beautiful 5-star facility, overlooking the ocean. We'll come back in, come back on the plane. We'll go Coolangatta, drive, park the car, got the bag. You'd walk in to this beautiful facility, late at night. There's a laundry on the left, so you go straight to the laundry, put the load in, because the next day you're flying back out again. You put the laundry away, or you put the laundry on, then you go and unpack, and then we were doing some stuff. I was just tidying up some stuff, and National College of Fitness was still going, but I used to actually just mail out from wherever I was in the country. I took all these pre-packed brochures, someone would inquire, they'll leave a message, I mail out. So National College of Fitness wasn't a big thing. It was a good thing, I really enjoyed it, but I'm busy on this little rampage around the country. I come out and Rory, she's so driven, so passionate, so positive. And you never know when, she's, she could stand there and talk to you and she would be so sick, but you'd never know. And she would keep a smile, and she just had that strength about her. And she'll just keep going. She never whinges or anything, she just does it. And that's one of her character traits, I suppose, and that's similar to me. So the challenge with those two character traits, we never give in. We'll just keep going till we die. And you get 2 of those together, no one's going to give in. We'll outwork each other, which is probably not a good thing. And so I came out and she's in the kitchen, and she's sort of cleaning up in the kitchen, and then she starts to dry reach into the basin. And I looked at her and I thought, that's odd. And I said, you're okay? So she went, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Nothing, nothing. I said, I just saw you, And I said, no, it was nothing. okay. And so we sort of get ready, we we'll repack our bags for the next morning, because the next morning I had to go back down to Adelaide to work with. They had 50 new trainers I had to train down in Adelaide. The next morning I had a new program starting at the National College of Fitness, which I opened up a separate site for. So I had to get up early in the morning, go to the post office, collect the mail, then go to the college. Marna was working for us then. Introduce the new group, get them started, hop in the car, go to the airport, hop on the plane, and off we go again. And that was the plan. We all planned out. And the next morning, we get up in the morning, I go for my plod jog, because I was big, so I always ran, but it's like this hippopotamus, running along. Rolled hours outrun me, that used to annoy me. She'd like this and go, oh, isn't that the wife outstripping the husband? That's not a good look. And we come back, I'm getting ready, she's having a shower, and she's in the shower, and I hear her, dry reach again. And I said, yeah, right? Yep, I'm fine. I'm fine, I'm this, that's all right, just, I don't know. Then she just brushed it off, and I knew that, that maybe this is not a good thing. So at that time, I got in the car. I went to the college at the time. It was at 50 Cavalry in Surfers Paradise. She hopped out. I said, I'll go to the post office. The plan was me to go to the post office, do that. She'll get the club, I'd come pick her up, and we'll go to the airport and off to Adelaide to work with 6 clubs and 50 new trainers. And I came, I dropped her off. She hopped out of the car, and I thought, I shut the door, I'll lock the door. I put the window down like this and says, I'm going, and I'm not coming back. Says, you're not coming to Adelaide. You stay at home. Right? I'll cover it. She's trying to whip the door open. I'm driving off, where are you going? Right? And it's a hard thing to do, but I had to do it. I felt I had to do it. So I go to Adelaide, and I hop in the plane, go down there, and it's really, a couple of things hit me. I was at the Stanford Hotel. I met with there were 6 directors on the board of that chain of clubs. I met them in the foyer. I walked out of the lift, and as I walked up to them, they went, what this? And I went, what's the matter? She says, where's Ro? I said, well, she's back. She says, it's really odd because we've never seen you apart. And I thought, okay. And I worked with the team, 30 trainers. It was fantastic. Worked them out, did the job. And those gave Ro an opportunity to lay on the beach for the weekend, to be without me, to think about things, think about your life. And it gave me time to be by myself. I always remember running along the river of Adelaide. And I was plodding along, as I'm plodding, the turtle would pass me, no turtle. Use a snail, okay, used a snail. But, I got my 30 minutes of plod jotting in, And I got back, I got changed, I was about to have a shower, and I had a tight hamstring, so I put my leg up on there, about to hop in the shower, and having a stretch. I looked in the mirror, and I looked at the mirror, I thought, you fat shit. Like I never really, holy cow, what's happened to you? Who are you? It's just like this awakening, And I thought, wow, I used to be always, single percent body fat, fit as a fiddle, all that sort of stuff. And wow, I got so focused on business and still exercise. And I went, so I put my running shorts back on, put my shoes back on, and out I went again. And there was just an awakening. I thought, this is not balanced. This is not serving my values. This is not going in the right direction. So it was a great little opportunity where, yes, success is really important, but really success while compromising your values and who you are and what you stand for is not good. Yes, the money was coming in, but really what was the consequences of that? And I didn't really want that. It wasn't our plan. I don't regret 1 second of it, because the learning curve that we went through, working with some of the big clubs and seeing behind what's happening, and was sensational. So I got on a plane, flew to the Cook Islands, hired a little shack on the beach, no TV, no radio, no nothing. And for 2 weeks, left Ro, she stayed on the beach and just sat there by myself and just, thought. And just thought, okay, where's things going? And there's not one part of that I didn't enjoy. It was just absolutely magnificent. Everything was, but the part was, it was that process of working out exactly what you want to do. And do what you absolutely love. And even though I loved them all, but they weren't really in complete alignment with what I really want to do. I said, this is not what I signed up for. When I went to uni, I didn't expect to be a fat businessman. That was not in the plan. And that's what I'd become, a fitness businessman. I thought, let's get back onto being great in business and fitness. And so in that next year, we took a year off. I basically just ran the National College of Fitness, sold a lot of the other businesses, and focused on the National College of Fitness. And that just started to go crazy because I had two hands, I had one thing, and I was writing it. But most of that, I didn't even put a huge effort at, but because it was focused, it really grew. It started growing, and every year it doubled. And then in that journey, we started to get noticed because I said, rather than telling other people to run their business, take all the advice that you learned and put it into your own business. And it's amazing, what focus will do. The business grew. Then we got invited to a meeting down at the Qantas Club down in Sydney Airport, and some of the big players and other education. You haven't thought they were big, but when you actually meet them and see what they did, they weren't very big. They were just like me, and they were just having a go, which is great. And we had this idea of forming all these institutes together to form one. And in that process, we all decided we'll form the Australian Institute of Fitness. And so we all got together. Ro and I were the young ones in the group, young and passionate. And we went back to Queensland. It was only a common name, but everyone had their own thing. But over time, we just kept growing and growing our part of the business. And it just kept growing from the National College of Fitness, doubled the business 5 years in a row. And that got us listed on the BRW Fast 100, which is one of the fastest growing businesses in Australia. But the interesting thing is that when I was reading a business magazine, I thought the BRW Fast 100, I thought, how do I get on that list? So I started looking at the business and I said, okay, I've already achieved the doubles and I have to keep doing this. So now one of my little external goals was to be on that list. That's a goal. Because I thought if I can achieve that goal, that will make something of me. How smart, how educated, how clever, how driven do I have to be on that list? And that became a goal. It's just a goal, but I did the goal because what it would make of me. Commit to something big and it will make you big. Commit to something small and it will make you small. And we achieved that. And then I came across this other list called the Young Rich List. I said, okay, let's have a Young Rich List. What's the entry point? The entry point back then was $10 million $10 million of net worth. I thought, okay, how do I get on that list? And it was just a goal. It was just a target. And then we started growing and investing and stuff like that. And then before you know it, we were put on the list. So I was on 1 year, Ro was on 2 years because I got too old to be on the Young Rich List, which is the richest people in Australia under the age of 40. So sometimes it's good to go for a target that is in your journey to success that will make you grow and make you stretch. It's a form of internal and external motivation combined together. I think everyone should aim to become a millionaire, not for the money, but for what it will make of you. Because you can lose the money, but you'll keep the mind. Okay? And then you won't be fearful ever again. A lot of times people get fearful of such the smallest things until they do it, and no longer then they become insignificant things. Everything is hard until it becomes easy. Yeah? No one wins a world title, no one wins a trophy or something of significance by doing small things. It's like the person who has a dream of Olympic gold medal. I love watching the Olympics because these people have been growing to that. Growing to that. I'll talk a little bit about that just to finish off. But in that journey, AIF took off. And then again, I guess in a way, it became a product of became a victim of our own success. Because it grew so much, in a way, I sort of lost a bit of control of the quality of it. The other states wanted to milk the cow. I wanted to make the cow better. And in a way, I wasn't proud of the students I was producing. We're putting through about 3,000 students a year, making quite good money out. Obviously, good money, bloody amazing money, really. And but I just didn't feel satisfied. Didn't feel satisfied because I wasn't proud of the end result of the product. And at that time, we came into a bit of conflict with the other partners. They wanted to keep growing, but I thought that anyone who becomes successful knows business. Knows values, knows marketing, knows sales, has personally. So the people I knew in my journey, they already knew business. Anyone who was successful knew business. Anyone who wasn't didn't know business. So I thought I need to put business into the program. The other people didn't want to actually enforce business in because, hey, we're doing really well just out of fitness. But I felt with fitness, I was just training you to go into a sword fight with a spoon. The marketplace would slice you up, chew you up, and spit you out so fast. But if you knew business, you knew how to handle it. If If you didn't have the business skills, it's like going into the boxing ring with a trained boxer and you'd never box. You get cut to pieces. And that's what students were doing. They were failing because I wasn't preparing them the best I could prepare them. So we had this conflict of direction, and so we decided to part ways. And in that parting of ways, we had to part with this business that was making us, millions and millions of dollars. And it was fantastic. But the millions and millions of dollars wasn't making me happy. I was happy that I was in the fitness, I was happy the student was successful, but there was this little bit of discontent there. So we decided to move on, give up all of that. We were on a stallion, racing on this successful stallion, but it was just going in the wrong direction. And I didn't have full control of it. We had other people pulling it. So, and I respect their decision, what they wanted to do, and they did things for their reason, but it wasn't us. We got in a position where we were said, okay, you could stay in and you conform. You had to conform. You had to stop doing all the things you're doing and conform, get rid of the business, or you can leave. And if we left, we would take a significant step backwards, naturally financially. And I went back to Ro and I said, Ro, this has been forced upon us. You either stay or you leave. And I already knew what I wanted to do, but I just wanted to see. And her response came in about a nanosecond. Her response was, fuck 'em. Tell us what to do. And I said, yeah, go girl. So we arranged our separation, and they've gone in their path, and they're very successful in what they do, and I have utmost respect for all those, my fellow directors and partners of back then, but they're just on a different journey, right? So now we had this opportunity to build this new foal. This foal which is going nowhere, like it's a baby horse, right? But in the process, I've been approached from New Zealand, a guy called Steve Barry, to ask us to set up colleges over there to help him get staff for his colleges. So we went up and opened up a college over there called the New Zealand College of Fitness. In the process, I also opened up 2 other colleges called the National College of Business. I opened up 3 colleges of the Australian Institute of Massage. I had 2 colleges in New Zealand called the New Zealand College of Fitness, and I had a part ownership in 10 other colleges. So I was all colleges, we called them campuses back then. But ultimately, they were just a dilution of my passion. And I thought, well, at that end, they're not really getting what I want them to get. Now, it was a good product, and it served us well, but they weren't getting the true magic which I believed in. So when we formed this file, we thought, what are we going to call it? We were in Melbourne at the time, and basically that's where, hey, let's call it Max. Right? Max is an easy name, people won't forget it, and it sounds ring. Where do you get that show? I went to Max. That had a good feel. And it had the history, because Max was really, the word Max was just the conglomeration of all the experiences that we accumulated, and we formed it into one product, which is a high standard, high professional, prestigious fitness business college. And that happened in 2008, and since then we've obviously grown it, and it's been as happy as I ever have in the last 32 years. There's no difference, by the way, it's just, but now you're sort of in complete control of your destiny. So that sort of gives you an indication probably where the word Max comes from. It comes from our history, which became my nickname, which became our business name. One of the other words, I was looking at a college that's called the McEvoy Academy of Excellence, which is, I thought, MAX. So it all sort of fitted together, but it just goes by Max. But there's some personal meaning. In that, we consolidate our New Zealand colleges. Steve Barry, we were partners in there, but we brought it all together. Now we all just work together. Steve is a banker for 15 years, a commercial banker, and then he opened up 2 very successful health clubs. And I ended up selling them for quite significant profits, and now he's completely in the passion of Max. So when I say take your life to the max, well, that's basically the life of Max, which really is just Max is just a reflection or extension of what's in me and what's in Ro. And I certainly hope when I go to your business, then it's just a pure reflection of who you are, and you do things for the right reasons. And just to finish off tonight is just to share a couple of little. Obviously, I've shared a lot of stories in there, and I hope you got some good messages out to how you can, hey, how do I apply it to what I do? How do I apply it? And there's been great times, and there's been great lessons along that journey. And you're all going to have that, and life will test you. What do you do about it? During the GFC, you know, we lost a fair bit of money. One day, we lost $2 million in one day. How good's that? Well, hey. Yeah. Rose says, hey, babe, what's that company we put that money in, da-da-da? Says, oh, you know, Great Southern Plantations. How much was in it? Oh, $2 million. Well, we just lost that. So that's nice. You want a cup of tea? Because ultimately, you know, money doesn't make me happy. I take the money, but I don't. But I don't need the money. And I learned that from a guy called Bill Gates. You know, money's just a scoreboard. Sometimes the scoreboard's high, sometimes the scoreboard's low. But Bill Gates, at the moment, he's worth about $78 billion. Sometimes he's struggling at $48 billion, right? But when Bill Gates started, sometimes he'd be, you know, booming at $78, and then he'd be down to $48. It's just a number of zeros. But the passion doesn't change. The passion doesn't change. And I guess to wrap up, some of the, I remember listening to a guy on the phone at one of our team players, and he was talking to one of his friends, and his friend was really grumpy. And I said, why is he grumpy? He says, well, the stock market's changed, and he's down. He's a commercial banker, so he's really grumpy. And I thought, wow, that's odd. And I thought, I started thinking about that. Why is he grumpy? Because the stock market's down. And I guess, I thought that's, so when the market's down, he's angry. When the market's up, he's happy. I said, that's a turbulent life. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And I started to look at, when I first started, as I share with you, at 17 years of age, my happy, this is happy, right? Happy scale. Out of 100, when I first got work at Bob's Gym, what was it out of 100? 100. Fantastic, right? I'm up here. How much I was getting paid? Nothing. No money, 100 happy. Great place to be, right? In my journey, my happy score has always been up here. Right? A little bit wavy, but it's always been somewhere in between 98 and 100. Most of the times, it's 100. Sometimes it goes a little bit down because I start to question, what am I doing this for? You know, maybe I'm just doing but I still love it no matter what it is. But my financial has been this. $2 million. Now, imagine if my happiness was attached to my bank account. That wouldn't be the life I want to live, right? But I attach my happiness to my passion account. Right? And then I get smart enough to support that passion with a score. It's just a score. That's all it is. You can't take it to your death, right? Because what you remember in your life is not this. This is what you remember. Wayne Pearce, a great football coach and player and a very good friend, taught me that success is about capturing or creating and capturing as many magical moments as possible. Magical moments. Now, whether they be magical moments in your business or with your children or with your partner or standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon, whatever it is, right? It's magical moments. Now, I left in your car, right? I reckon you had a sticky bee too. No. Of course you did. And I have no challenge with that, right? Because there's nothing, but you probably see at the back here, my little, lots of different stuff. This is my notes. I've captured thoughts in my life. I've got about 10 of these at home. And this is, at the back here I have this little magic list. All the things I want to experience in my life, right? And there's, literally hundreds of them. You know? Wow. I've done that one, that was great. Just having a moment now. Right? Stand on the edge of the Grand Canyon and eat pizza in the streets of Rome. And how good's that? All the things that create magical moments. Right? You just tick them off. Write a list, magic moments. People call it a bucket list, right? Right? I was doing this well and truly before. Then you just capture notes. So that's what creates happiness. And I guess and content, I guess if I had to wrap up is, in your life or in your business, it comes back to your vision or purpose, serving a greater cause. We've already talked about this in the program, have a greater cause, because it's not about what you get out of this world, it's what you leave in this world. It's not what you give to your kids, it's what you leave in your kids, which is really important. Be who you become. and the cause that you leave behind. And then Mandela's left a legacy, right? And he's dead. And great people would do that. Yeah? What legacy are you going to leave? And it doesn't have to be earth-shattering, but it could be earth-shattering to the people that you love. Whether it be your partner, whether it be your children, or whether it be your family, whether it be to your clients. So what is your vision? What is your purpose? It's important in that process too, and I learned a lot from this from Savvy. Steve taught me a lot about values. Is to serve your values, the things that make you happy. And you attach them to your hand, and most of you have done this exercise. Or you go home, you work out 10 values, or 10 or 20 values which are important to you. Things that make you happy, that if were taken away, you wouldn't be happy. Might be if they took time away with your kids, you wouldn't be happy, so now one of your values should be your children. So what is your values? Mine I attach them to the hand. Get 20, tie them down, come up with the most important 5 things in your life that make you happy. My thumb is, hey, I'm a positive person. So I'm a positive person, that's my value. I don't hang out with negative people, I don't do negative. If you're negative, have a good life. Not interested. So everything happens to me, I'm always positive. Lost $2 million, hey, how great's that? Isn't that fantastic? That's good bragging rights, isn't it? Wouldn't that make a great chapter in the book? That's a great chapter. So being positive, no, it's not being positive when things are good. How positive are you when things are not so good? Hey, I'm an achiever, I'm driven and directed. That's most. So if I don't achieve every day, I feel discontent. I'm fit, healthy and strong. The tallest one, which is the most important one. Right? Hello. Fit, healthy and strong. I'm educated. I'm constantly learning and educate others. So I'm here tonight because that serves my contribution. That's what I do. That makes me happy. I'm educated and I'm a professional. I'm classy, I'm stylish and sophisticated. I always dress well, I always present well, I'm always polite, I have good etiquette, I have great etiquette, and so I have fun, I present well, I'm educated, I'm fit, I'm healthy and strong, and I'm an achiever, and that serves me. If I do that, I'm happy, and I'll have a magical life, and that will keep this line here. Take any of them away from me, and I feel there's a hole in my life. Therefore, when I choose what I do, I have to serve my values. I choose the big mission, the big purpose, to positively change the health and fitness of the world. One person at a time, from the inside and the outside, and to raise the profession of the fitness profession. That's my business purpose. Then I have my own personal philosophy. I live for the day by investing in tomorrow by living a life of abundance. Hence our chat last night about our bag room and shoe room. That's called abundance. Abundance of love, abundance of fun, abundance of education, abundance of money, abundance of shoes, abundance of handbags, abundance. Why not? It's an ocean of opportunity. You don't go down there with a spoon, go down there with a bucket. And in that process, I live for the day, invest in that. So every day I have fun. I trained with Nicola last night, and I reckon our abs got the one hell of a workout. We just constantly laughed. At the time we're looking at each other, he says, I need to rub the cheek. Because I like to have fun. Right? In what I do, in my profession, at home, with my pigs, with my donkeys, with my wife, doesn't matter. Have fun. How can I have fun with this? Right? Vision, values. Vision is purpose, values, and then you can set big goals that make something of you. Big dreams, big goals. One of the later things I did is 2.5 years ago, just to finish off. And a mate of mine, Tommy, one of our team players, he said to me one day, because I stopped martial arts when I was 26. I became a professional kickboxer. I fought, lots of titles, won lots of stuff. But I felt that part of my life, I was content with what I achieved, I won national titles, and then I got a redirection into my career, my business, my master's degree. So I sort of just lost contact, didn't throw a kick or a punch for basically over 20 years. Tommy says to me one day, he said, look, I want to do a martial art, can you recommend anything? I said, well, why don't you take out Taekwondo? It's a nice art, right? It's a nice artistic art, it's very practical, it's got great kicks, and Taekwondo these days, they really focus on a lot of punching. It's a good art. He says, I'll take you down there, and we'll join the club, and I'll help you out. So I went down there, we joined the club, and in that process, I joined as well. So 20 years out of action, haven't trying to kick, lost a lot of my mojo, my flexibility. I'm now 20 years older, I'm 46 years of age at that time. So it's really interesting. I really enjoyed it because it gave me a bit of time out. It gave me a bit of, in my own time, I loved the art, and I thought I'd just do this to give me something to do, stay young, you know, stay young, be fun. That's what I said to my wife, stay young and have fun. And Rose says, yeah, that's great, you go and get him, Kman. And she's never seen me fight before, because when I met her, I'd retired. So I'm going down there and I'm training away, and I got invited to do some sparring, because a little guy called Oggy, he's a fantastic fighter. He says, oh, he used to do kickboxing. I said, yeah. So why don't you come down and do a bit of sparring with us? You know, we like to learn some of your kickboxing. It's very nice. I've got the gloves on, and I'm sparring with these couple of national champions. And I'm sort of going, and I'm sparring away and going, I'm doing all right. I'm sort of holding my own. It's really odd, you know. I think I'm a bit slower, not as flexible, not as fit, not as strong. But I'm these young guns, they're national champions, and I thought, yeah, I'm doing all right. Then this little tournament came up. It was the New Zealand Martial Arts Championship. And I thought, well, I'll go and then have a bit of fun. I said, well, I'm going to a tournament for a bit of fun. So, okay, well, I'll come. So she came to watch, and I ended up winning 4 national titles in the first tournament. And Rose says, you're really good at this. I said, yeah, I guess so. It's been a while. And so I sort of got hooked on that. I thought that was kind of good, but I really loved the art. And she said, stay young, have fun. What's going on here? You know, you just went in a tournament. That's not stay young, have fun, yeah. And I go, okay. So then the Oceania Championships came up. And I thought, well, how good do I have to become, and what do I have to do to be competitive? My goal was just to be competitive. I just want to get on the mat and not be embarrassed for fighting these young guys, right? So I said, they said, what's your goal with this? I said, I just want to get, I know I can't be 100% what I used to be when I was young, but if I can get to 70%, I'll be doing okay. Because 20 years ago on the bridge, and I'm a bit more arthritic and a bit more age and all that stuff. So I go on the Oceania Championships. Hughes came down there. Not Hughes, my apologies. G-Spot came down, big surprise.
Tassie, was it?
No? Tassie. What did I say?
No, Tassie, yeah.
Tassie, Tasmanian, Hobart. So I go in there and I win the Oceania Championship. So okay, that was fun. And then...
convincingly.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And then the World Championships came up. And what's interesting is that I hadn't shared this with anyone, because, when it comes to fighting, my whole approach to fighting had changed from when I was 20. It's really interesting, because when you're 50, with a bit of wisdom, you can work out how to win and still actually enjoy it at the process. Because when I got back into competitive fighting, so I go in the world. I share with some of my close friends, and it was really surprising. I said, we're having a chat, and I say, what are you doing? I said, I'm getting back into taekwondo, because I never share that with anyone unless they're close and I trust. And I said, okay. He says, what do you want to do with that? He says, well, I'm going to go to the World Championships. So what, you're going to go to the world? I said, yeah. He says, yeah, right. And it's just how they said things, and it's almost like they rolled their eyes at me, like, yeah. And I thought, these people don't really take me seriously. And I thought that really interesting. And really the only person when I shared, I don't share much with many, I shared a lot tonight, but I would very rarely share my future goals with anyone, because what's the point? You're not a part of it, and half the time you probably be pessimistic towards it anyway. That's what people are like. Yeah, they say, yeah, right. And then you get that all your life. I used to do it with my father, and I stopped sharing goals with him. And it's really odd that these people who I thought were really supportive were, yeah, right. And that just burnt a little flame in me, Okay, fair enough. And so 4 World Championships later, I've won 4 world titles. But it was a very satisfying email to send to those people. Oh, by the way, I'm world champion, right? And you don't do things for revenge, but you do things for your own reasons. But sometimes doing that exposes people too. But the only person who's really 100% certain and passionate and supportive was Rory. She was just the greatest supporter in the world. But even if you don't have that, you have to be the greatest supporter of yourself, because success is a lonely path. It doesn't have to be lonely, but many times you're alone when you do it. Because you're there when you succeed, and you're there when you not succeed, and you're there when you get hit, and you're there when you win. But I'll share a quote, and I'll try to explain it. And I was having a great chat with Sharon when she was over. We fighters talk, and this might be helpful to you. Because my whole approach to fighting when I was young as a fighter to older is and it's far more enjoyable now. Winning doesn't make you a winner. Being a winner makes you win. Because if you think winning makes you a winner, what happens when you lose? Because no one wins all the time. So if your happiness is attached to winning, then it's going to be a tough path. Because when you stop winning, there tends to be a little black hole at the end of it. I see that with young fighters. They get up there and they go to the world champs, whatever, and they fight away and they lose, right? And then they just chuck a tantrum. Things don't go their way, right? But if they win, they're happy. If they lose, you're unhappy. If you make money, you're happy. If you lose money, you're unhappy. So don't attach your happiness to winning. Just be a winner. See, it's common known that a lot of athletes, after they retire, go into depression. Right? There's been lots of stories in the paper of Ian Thorpe on antidepressants and alcoholism, and athletes who, when they quit, they get fat and they're drinking alcohol, and you think, wow, what's there? Because in my mind, they're not a winner. They won, but they're not a winner. Because a winner always wins. You either win the tournament or win the lesson. So when I go in the fight now, I train seriously. I fight seriously. But I don't take it seriously. I play seriously. I prepare seriously. But I don't take it seriously. Because when you lose 2 mil, I don't take that seriously. Because it's only a scoreboard, right? And what a great journey. What a great story. Because if I can lose 2 mil, I can make 2 mil, but I had to make it to lose it. And it wasn't everything I had, but it doesn't matter. I can get it back. So when I go into a fight, it's really interesting because I see young guys fight, right? And particularly when they're fighting me, they're really, wow, he's an old guy. He's older than my dad. Right? He doesn't punch like my dad, though. But they lose and they get upset. And I lose, I'm happy for them. Because if I lose, they win, therefore they're happy, right? And I'm happy for them. So the whole approach is different because I used to go in there angry, right? Got to win, got to win, got to win, right? And then sometimes you get so focused and sometimes you're so arrogant, you start to make mistakes. And you forget the joy of why you started in the first place. Why I started in the first place. Why I started martial arts in the first place. Because you just love the art or you love the competition. But if you focus too much on the scoreboard, you tend to lose the joy of the game. And if the scoreboard is not going the way you want, you get upset. You retire, you go into depression, you go into a dark place. Because true champions are people who are champion no matter what. Now I look at, say, Roger Federer. To me, he's a winner. He's seems to be I don't know him, but everyone says how much of a nice guy he is. And he still competes. He's not winning, but he's still a winner. Just because he's not winning now doesn't mean he's not a winner. He's still a winner. He's a winner no matter what he is, because he's one of those guys. And other people chuck tantrums when they lose. That's not a winner. And they tend to live their life in a dark place. They get upset. So it's how you play the game. If you're a winner, you're going to want the best no matter what. You put your best in. You do your best, but there's some things you can't control. Some things I can't control. If my opponent is a better fighter. So if he beats me, he deserves it, and he has my utmost respect, and it's just a pleasure and an honour to fight him. If I win, I respect my win, and I respect for my opponent. But it's really odd, because when I go into the ring, you see them over the corner. So they're like, getting angry, and I'm there. And half the time before the fight, I run around the mat. And they come up to me and say, "How you going, mate? I'm Kman. I'm fighting you next. Just put on a good show, huh? Oh, mate, are you looking forward to this? Oh, this is going to be so much fun. See you on the mat." Right? Then I come out there, we come out and you bow, you know, hey, you come out there and I come out, right? And he's there, and I'm going. The referee looks at me, and ding ding, okay, let's get into it. Woohoo! How fun is this? Why would you take it seriously? I fight serious, don't get me wrong, I'll throw everything I got into it. But it's a different approach to fighting. I've won 4 world titles and they've been an absolute pleasure. Beforehand, when I was young, I'd be winning titles and I'll be all this pressure, you know. And but it's such a better approach than using the wisdom I gathered now. So focus on just becoming a winner. And you will eventually deserve the things that you win. And if the referees don't see it the way you see it, I can't control that. If they're a better fighter, that's it. All I can control is when I get onto the mat, I'll never lose because I'm ill-prepared. I'll be the fittest in the tournament. I'll be the most prepared. I don't take my smile as a weakness. I smile because I'm content with myself and I love what I do and I'm going to put everything. I'm smiling because when you receive this punch, it is going to hurt like nothing has ever hurt you before. Are you looking forward to it? Like Tom at the most primary school? Bang! Your turn. Right? It's just a different approach. Because I see a lot of people put pressure on themselves to become successful. Just become successful, enjoy it, and you achieve successful things measured by your own values and the things you want to achieve. And you tend to become a nice person that people want to hang out with. Not that angry person who won a lot of titles and did a lot of success, but they end up being an angry person. You know, the angry rich man or the angry competitor or the sport brat, that type of thing. And I think that just comes back to knowing who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And you express that in whether your sporting goals or your business goals or in your personal life or your relationships or your charity or whatever course it is. You know? So focus on you. Focus on you and life will tend to sort it out. But if you focus on things, and that's what you focus on, you can lose you. You can lose you, and I see it all the time. In sport and in life, yeah, they become really wealthy, but they're really fat. They win a gold medal, but they're depressed. You watch for that. And that happens so often with athletes, unfortunately. It happens in business because you lose your life to achieve a goal. The goal should enhance your life and enjoy the journey. I'd like to thank everyone here for coming. I'd like to make special mention to Dean. Thank you. And Steve-O in the back there, thank you very much. He's from Melbourne, coming in and joining us, so thank you very much for coming up. I know I've gone way over the expectation of time, but you know, I just couldn't wait to hear what I had to say, so I just kept talking, right? Right? So hope that has helped to create a little bit of magic in your life, giving you a bit of guidance. Don't do what I do, right? You won't enjoy what I do. Don't follow my path. Follow your own path. Maybe you can take some philosophies from that and apply it and make the path more successful, but most of all, most enjoyable, because at the end of your life and during your life, the only thing you have and where you live in the ocean of your own thoughts. And at the end of your life, the only thing you'll be thinking about is the memories in your life, not how much money you made, not how many gold medals but how you actually enjoyed it. And there'll be those emotional, magical moments that you created. Create magical moments to create magical memories. And if that adds value to other people's lives, then it's a win for everyone and win for you and win for the world. Thank you very much, and have a magical life and a magical career. You know where I am. Thank you.